Chapter 1. The Arrival of the Bird at Hand. In the grand realm of the Great Qin, nestled within the northern frontier city, a resplendent full moon hung high in the sky, casting its luminous glow over the entire city. As spring waned and summer approached, the night had deepened, and the chill of the northern winds swept down from the mountaintops. Within the city, many slumbering souls instinctively huddled deeper into their blankets, some even burying themselves entirely within their bedding. However, for one individual, such a cool and refreshing night, shrouded in darkness and wind, was not to be spent in the comfort of a warm bed. There exists a saying, "The bed is the grave of youth." How can one so young possibly sleep? This individual was none other than Zhao Juqian, concealed within the shadows of a dwelling. Under the silvery night, his sharply defined visage became faintly visible, with ink-black eyes reflecting a cunning glimmer akin to that of a fox. "Cuckoo, do not betray your hunger, for I am devising a means to procure sustenance," the young man muttered as he gazed at his disobedient stomach. "Alas, consider me, a dignified divine emperor, who, in a contest of martial prowess, fell victim to a treacherous ambush from an adversary. By sheer luck, a fragment of my soul escaped, granting me the chance for reincarnation. Yet, upon the awakening of my previous lives' memories, I discovered that my parents were but ordinary folk, devoid of wealth or power. Such matters were one thing, but what was more infuriating was that just days prior, my father had hunted a splendid rabbit, only to be mercilessly assaulted by the daughter of the Lin family, under the pretense of protecting adorable creatures. Now, he lay at home with broken limbs. It was in this moment of indignation that Zhao Juqian fainted, awakening to the memories of his past life. Though my father's fractures have long since been attended to by me, he requires ample rest and nutrition to recover from the lingering damage, exemplified by the chicken before me. This Lin family tavern thrives remarkably well. It is no wonder the kitchen necessitates a separate warehouse for ingredients. However, this matter cannot simply be overlooked. Once I rise to power, I shall empty your Lin family's treasury." Zhao Juqian cast a fierce glance at the chicken in his grasp. Its smooth, tender flesh was not that of a feedlot chicken, but rather a farm-raised one. The nutritional value is superb, and as for its origin, it undoubtedly comes from the upper echelons of the impoverished district. For those at the bottom, the notion of raising chickens is laughable. They can barely sustain themselves. He secured 2 chickens, a slab of pork belly, and a sizable cabbage, along with a bag of oil and salt, and swaggered out through the front entrance. As he stepped outside, he turned back to glance at the lock on the ground. So I better to lock it back up. With such meager spoils, they likely wouldn't verify anything. There will be ample time for future endeavors. With this thought, he set down his bundle, picked up the bronze lock from the ground, weighed it in his hand, and noted its craftsmanship: half a foot long and an inch thick. The longer the lock, the more intricate the mechanism, making it increasingly difficult for a thief to pick it. From the lock's length alone, any thief would shake their head in dismay. With a click, he secured the lock once more. Zhao Juqian looked at the lock with a smug expression, saying, "This shabby lock dares to secure a door? What a farce!" As he spoke, he seemed entirely at ease with his identity as a mere mortal, not once contemplating that he was, in fact, a divine emperor, reduced to the status of a petty thief, yet feeling quite pleased with himself. This bronze lock had been crafted by a renowned blacksmith in the city, and without a key, the average person could only resort to brute force to open it. Zhao Juqian, relying on his divine reincarnation and formidable spirit, easily discerned the lock's mechanism and opened it with a mere wire. How could the Lin family ever fathom that others could enter at will? Meanwhile, within a dilapidated chamber, a pallid, middle-aged man lay upon a rickety bed, his eyes bulging and dark circles beneath them swollen. This man was none other than Zhao Juqian's father, Zhao Baizhu. Beside him, a woman, his mother, Elf Fulling, furrowed her brow as she gazed at the stone bowl in her hands, half filled with murky brown medicinal concoction. "Alas, I wonder what Juqian is up to." No sooner had she spoken than a soft voice echoed from outside. "Mother, I have returned." With a gentle creak, the door swung open, and Zhao Juqian entered, burdened with a large bundle. The moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating the cramped space, which contained nothing more than the large bed and a weathered cabinet overflowing with odds and ends. Adjacent to it were the kitchen and dining area, while a small room nearby served as Zhao Juqian's sleeping quarters and abode, not unlike a cave. Upon seeing her son return, El Fuling quickly inquired, "Where have you been at this hour?" Zhao Juqian provided no lengthy explanation, unveiling his bundle instead, and said, "Mother, hurry and make some chicken soup for father to restore his health." As he handed her the bundle, El Fuling's eyes widened in shock, nearly causing her to collapse onto the floor. "My child, where did you acquire these chickens and this meat?" In her mind, she had already begun to entertain certain possibilities, though she hesitated to confirm them. At such a late hour, aside from pilfering chickens or committing petty theft, what else could he be doing? Zhao Juqian observed his mother, smiling as he reassured her, "Mother, given our current circumstances, the foremost priority is to see father restored to health. As for the origins of these items, fret noti shall ensure we live well in the future." El Fuling pondered for a moment, deciding against further inquiries. Her son was correct. If Zhao Baiju were to suffer any more misfortune, their family would truly have no hope. Thus, she remained silent, transporting the meat to the adjacent kitchen, where she began her preparations. Zhao Juqian settled beside his father, noting his steady breathing, and felt a measure of relief. He reached out to check his father's pulse, reflecting, "The pulse is weak yet steady. I must first restore father's health over the next few days, and in the meantime, I can also cultivate and regain some strength." With the memories of his previous life now clear, he recalled hearing tales from storytellers and tea houses about this world, where immortals existed who transcended to enlightenment. Yet such beings were exceedingly rare. The feats they described, moving mountains and filling seas, soaring through the skies, were but myths to him. However, Zhao Juqian was different now. He was a divine emperor reincarnated, embodying the very essence of those legendary figures. With this thought, a smile crept upon his lips. "In this life, I shall live while I shall no longer court death." At that moment, his father unexpectedly opened his eyes and softly said, "Juqian, what has transpired in the past few days? I sense that you have acquired remarkable skills." Zhao Juqian adjusted the tattered blanket covering his father and replied with a light-hearted grin, "Father, I am your son. As you, the head of the family, grow weaker, I must step up to support us." Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Baiju chuckled at his son's words. "Good, good. You are nearing 18. It is high time you became a man and ceased your previous idleness." Since Zhao Juqian's reincarnation to this northern frontier city, his personality remained largely unchanged from his past life. Thus, when he awakened to the memories of his former self, his parents noticed nothing amiss, for he was, after all, their son. "Father, you have misunderstood me. My strolls through the city were not aimless. I was observing the market. This is what we call accumulating knowledge for future application. Look at me now, I have learned quite a bit." As he spoke, he rose to demonstrate. Zhao Baiju, reassured by his son's demeanor, comfortably closed his eyes once more. Before long, El Fuling finished preparing the meat, and together, she and her son gently propped Zhao Baiju up. Having cleaned one chicken, they served him a bit of broth. Zhao Juqian had chosen the easier-to-cook chicken and lean pork, for he knew that his father's hunger necessitated immediate attention. As dawn broke, the family finally settled down to rest. Chapter 2: The Creation Space. Lin Family Tavern. Before the sun fully rose, a portly head chef led a group into the courtyard. He cast a brief glance at the door lock, producing a key from his waist, and, with a click, unlocked it, gently pushing the door open with a creak. The head chef, moving with a dazed gait, entered the cold storage and barked at his subordinates. "You lot can take a few items each night, but do not be greedy. Understand?" "Understood, head chef." These men were his trusted confidants, having been mentored by him. Thus they spoke without formality. Nevertheless, he still had to remind them daily, for even if such actions were tacitly accepted by the family, they must not overstep their bounds. Would the kitchen work itself into starvation? Certainly not. At the very least, they could take a few items home each day to share with their families. If they could not consume it all, they could sell it. The profits were modest throughout the year, but sufficient for household support. As for the items Lin Fei had taken the previous night, They were inconsequential in the eyes of these men. There were 11 of them in total, and the head chef's collected items needed no further mention, as they were all precious materials. The others could only take simple fare, akin to what Zhao Juqian had procured. The head chef rubbed his ample belly and waved his hand, saying, "All right, let us begin our work. First, take some commonly used ingredients to thaw and wash. Those who need to prepare fish should do, so those cutting vegetables, get to it. We shall prepare the breakfast buns first." His subordinate sprang into action, while he stood by, directing their efforts. Meanwhile, Zhao Juqian lay upon a vast expanse of grass, surrounded by an endless sea of green. Uncertain of how much time had passed, he gradually opened his eyes, only to find the sky enveloped in thick, ethereal energy. His once blank mind instantly regained clarity. Where is this place? He leaped to his feet, surveying the vast expanse of the grassland around him, a shock coursing through his mind. Wasn't I just sleeping in my own home? Am I being held captive and discarded here? Initially, he believed he was ensnared in a dream. But after delivering 2 sharp slaps to his own face, he came to the grim realization that this was no mere illusion. Just as he found himself at a loss, a figure began to materialize before him. As the silhouette grew clearer, a young man of striking presence emerged, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, clad in a blue Taoist robe adorned with fine, golden threads at the edges. "Youngster, you are indeed fortunate to have entered this primordial space." Zhao Qian was momentarily taken aback. "What is this?" The young man chuckled. "Ah, I see you are bewildered. Allow me, your esteemed servant, to enlighten you." Zhao Qian inwardly cursed. "Damn it. I am the reincarnation of a divine emperor, and you dare to flaunt your knowledge before me?" Yet, he truly could not decipher the situation, so he decided to let the young man continue his charade for the time being. "Oh, then do enlighten me," Zhao Qian said, slumping onto the ground, skepticism etched across his face. For those who reveled in pretense, nothing was more irksome than to be met with disbelief thus. This was the perfect moment to provoke him into revealing more. As expected, the young man, upon noticing Zhao Qian's demeanor, became incensed and declared, "You dare to exhibit such disrespect in the presence of this divine messenger?" Zhao Qian replied nonchalantly, "Divine messenger? You still claim to be a divine emperor? Please just tell me what is going on." The divine messenger inhaled deeply, striving to regain his composure. "Ahem, this is the primordial space, and I am the—" "What? Steward? Steward? Indeed, I am the one and only steward of this primordial space, and you, if all goes as expected, are its current master." The young man concluded, deflating like a puncture balloon. Zhao Qian felt a surge of amusement. "Isn't this just the spirit of the artifact? Do you think I lack knowledge?" However, he refrained from voicing such sentiments, recognizing that doing so might wound the young man's pride, as he appeared somewhat withdrawn. Zhao Qian quickly interjected, "Wow, does that mean I can ascend to immortality and divinity soon?" The steward shot him a disdainful glance. "The so-called immortals and divine emperors you speak of are but inferior existences, not the strongest, and certainly not eternal. Time will ultimately erode them. Even more powerful beings will succumb to its relentless passage." His words seemed to convey a profound understanding of the myriad states of existence, as if he stood apart from the world transcendent. "Oh, how impressive you are, holding yourself in such high regard now you may look down upon me. So, what use does this space hold for me as its master?" Zhao Qian asked, spreading his hands in inquiry. The young man waved his hand, and a golden orb of light erupted from the ground, swiftly merging into Zhao Qian's mind, inscribing an incomprehensibly profound cultivation method within his consciousness. The Primordial Immortal Sutra. Zhao Qian sat cross-legged on the ground, following the flow of energy as it coursed through the meridians of the first level of the technique. The rich spiritual energy surged into every pore, converging within his channels, washing away years of hidden injuries and impurities. His entire network of meridians and acupoints was nourished, and ultimately, after circulating the energy for a complete cycle, it began to gather in his dantian. Boom! Zhao Qian felt a tremendous surge within his body, as if some shackles had been shattered. This is the first level of Spirit Master. In mere moments, he regained his senses, and upon opening his eyes, a cunning glint sparkled within them, now laced with an undeniable authority. His formidable spirit soon acclimated to the overwhelming influx of information from the technique. "May I inquire, steward, how does one exit this place, and how does one enter?" Zhao Qian gestured towards the surrounding grassland. The steward smiled faintly. "This is quite simple. I will impart the usage techniques into your mind, and you shall soon grasp the advantages of this primordial space." With that, he raised his hand and unleashed a beam of blue light, which contained a brief yet detailed introduction to the primordial space, alongside a user manual. Primordial space, an independent realm existing between being and non-being. When the master enters, their entire being is enveloped. The passage of time outside differs from that within, determined by the current cultivation level of the master. Given Zhaoqian's lack of cultivation, the ratio is a mere tenfold for every hour outside. 10 hours pass within. The method for entering this space is exceedingly simple. With a mere thought, he can trigger the primordial space, causing his body to vanish from its location. Additionally, at that moment, a brief, localized time freeze occurs, lasting only 3 seconds. Having understood all this, Zhao Qian waved goodbye to the steward. "Farewell, steward. My name is Zhao Qian, and I must step out to attend to certain matters." Wait. There is one more thing to remember. The emergence of the primordial space will inevitably stir up a tempest of bloodshed. You must prepare yourself. The young man gestured emphatically. Zhao Qian nodded, unsurprised by such an outcome. In his previous life, he had encountered various aspects of causality. Every matter bears its benefits and drawbacks, and even a divine emperor is not exempt from the inexorable arrangements of fate. However, in this lifetime, he would cultivate solely for himself and not for the heavenly way. Chapter 3: Provocation. At the door, as Zhao Zhaoqian's silhouette gradually faded, a flash of white light illuminated the room, and he reappeared within. He clenched his fist, feeling the surge of his own strength. The distinction between a level 1 spirit master and an ordinary person was indeed as stark as day and night. Zhao Zhaoqian wiped the mud and impurities from his clothes with a rag and was about to inquire if his mother had risen to prepare water and meals when a sudden clamor erupted outside. "Oh, Zhao Zhaoqian, I wonder how it is that the scent of meat wafts from your home. Has the old relic passed away, allowing you to feast?" Upon hearing this, Zhao Zhaoqian instantly recognized the voice. With a creak, he opened the door to find a group of youths clad in coarse linen. At the forefront stood a brazen young man, brandishing a wooden stick and occasionally striking his palm, flanked by 4 miscreants who regarded Zhao Zhaoqian with malice. "Young Master Gua, good morning," Zhao Zhaoqian greeted, his tone devoid of warmth. The kitchen door emitted a piercing creak as his mother, Lu Fuling, emerged, her oil-stained hands wiped against her apron. "Young Master Gua, you are mistaken. The aroma of meat comes from the wild cats that Zhaoqian caught outside." Gua sneered, "Humph. I have consumed more meat than you have grains of rice. Do you think I cannot discern the flavors of chicken and pork?" Truly laughable. With that, he strode toward their kitchen as if it were his OW, and Lu Fuling attempted to intervene. But Zhao Zhaoqian held her back, casting her a reassuring glance that signaled his readiness to confront the situation. "You can either leave or face death." Zhao Zhaoqian's voice was frigid, his gaze sharp as a wolf's directed at Gua. The latter hesitated, suddenly daunted, his body trembling involuntarily. Zhao Zhaoqian stepped forward, blocking Gua's advance, his eyes glinting with a deadly intensity. Gua, emboldened by his connection to the Lin clan through his cousin, had been a tyrant in the slums, frequently extorting protection fees and seizing valuables, with food and meat being no exceptions. His nose was keen, akin to a dog, detecting any hint of meat from afar, and he would swiftly descend upon households, meting out violence to those who dared resist. Well, the sun must be rising in the west today. Have I not beaten you for a few days, and now you believe you can stand up to me?" Gua's anger flared, realizing that the one he usually toyed with was now regarding him with such defiance. Before he could finish his taunt, his stick swung down toward Zhao Zhaoqian's head. Most individuals would be unable to react in time. Even a level 1 spirit master would find it challenging at such close quarters. However, for Zhao Zhaoqian, the moment the attack was initiated, he remained vigilant, fixated on Gua's eyes. Moreover, with the divine spirit and soul at his disposal, How could he be caught off guard? To attempt a sneak attack on someone who had just been resurrected from an ambush was sheer folly. Zhao Juqian raised his left hand and grasped the wooden stick firmly, his eyes sparking with electricity as he glared at Gua Er. Gua Er felt as if a predator had targeted him, chilling fear coursing through him. Let go! With a twist of his left hand, Zhao Juqian wrenched the stick away, then unleashed a swift right hook that struck Gua Er squarely in the abdomen. A muffled thud echoed as Gua Er crumpled to the ground, his body curling into a shrimp-like shape. A piercing scream erupted from him, prompting his four companions to eye Zhao Juqian warily. Zhao Juqian smirked, casting a glance at the quartet before advancing, squatting down to mock Gua Er, who writhed on the ground. Did you not wish for chicken soup and meat? Get up! He then forcefully shoved the wooden stick into Gua Er's mouth, taunting, perhaps you'd prefer to eat shit instead. With a powerful thrust, the stick pierced through Gua Er's mouth, embedding itself into the hard ground beneath. Gua Er's body went limp, his gaze vacant, a foul stench erupting from him. He's dead. The remaining four underlings were immediately thrown into a panic. Zhao Juqian, you're finished. Do you know who he is? He is a relative of the Lin family. You have offended the Lin family. Do you understand? One of the lackeys mustered the courage to step forward, reprimanding Zhao Juqian. Zhao Juqian extracted the stick, fresh blood oozing from Gua Er's mouth. Yet, he seemed oblivious, flicking his wrist as the stick shot forth like an arrow, striking the chest of the bold lackey before he could react. With a thud, the body collapsed to the ground. The remaining three were utterly terrified, the memories of their recent bullying of Zhao Juqian fresh in their minds. Now facing a drastically altered situation. Please, young Master Juqian, spare our lives. One of the lackeys quickly dropped to his knees, bowing fervently. The other two survivors followed suit, pleading, Big brother, we were also threatened by Gua Er. We were once neighbors and had a good relationship. Indeed, Big brother, we were coerced. Zhao Juqian regarded the trio coldly, unwilling to dirty his hands with the disposal of the bodies. He declared, remove the corpses and get lost. The three, feeling a weight lift off their shoulders, hurriedly dragged the two bodies away, scurrying out of Zhao Juqian's sight. At that moment, they cursed their parents for not giving them two more legs. For Zhao Juqian was nothing short of a monster. Once they had departed, Lu Fuling looked at Zhao Juqian in disarray. My son, now that you've killed Gua Er, they will surely come for you in retribution. You must gather your things and leave here quickly. Saying this, she urged Zhao Juqian to pack up. Zhao Juqian gazed at his frantic mother, warmth flooding his heart. This was indeed his mother. Mother, do not worry. I have my ways. Focus on your meal. The only way to deal with such people is to instill fear and pain in them. Only then will they cease to trouble us, or we shall know no peace. As his mother met his determined gaze, an inexplicable sense of reassurance washed over her. After sharing a modest meal of meat with his parents, Zhao Juqian retreated to his room to cultivate. Though he longed to wash away the grime from his body, he knew it would not be long before Gua Er's family sought revenge. If they were absent, his parents would undoubtedly suffer. Even facing life-threatening danger, he could not leave. Zhao Juqian sat cross-legged on his bed, once again channeling the Genesis scripture. A profound sensation surged within him. The cultivation method he practiced in his previous life was once considered top-tier. Yet it now seemed exceedingly crude and riddled with flaws in comparison to the Genesis scripture. Casting aside distractions, he continued to draw in the sparse spiritual energy surrounding him, allowing it to flow gently into his body, nourishing the 12 meridians and the 8 extraordinary vessels. Gradually, a massive storm of spiritual energy began to coalesce above Zhao Juqian's head, drawing in the spiritual energy from a 10-mile radius with wild intensity. His body absorbed the tempest's energy like a parched sponge. In merely half an hour, Zhao Juqian ascended to level 2 Spirit Master, experiencing significant enhancements in both strength and speed. With a deep exhale, Zhao Juqian released a breath of turbid air, his eyes gleaming with vitality. Clenching his fists, he was rewarded with a satisfying crackle of bones. Although he was uncertain of the situation with Gua Er's family, he understood that the increase in his strength would afford him some measure of security. To be slain by mere mortals after being reborn as a divine entity would be an unbearable disgrace. He lifted his gaze towards the sunlight streaming outside. It was midday, and they were sure to come soon. Chapter 4 Warrior as expected. Not long after, A palpable sense of danger permeated the air. Zhao Juqian, get the hell out here! A thunderous roar echoed, reverberating throughout the slums, easily heard by all. What has Zhao Juqian done to offend Guohu? Many neighbors voiced their bewilderment, with several onlookers climbing onto their walls to catch a glimpse of the unfolding drama. Zhao Juqian stepped out, spotting a burly middle-aged man bearing a resemblance to Guo Er. He had a broad back and a fierce countenance, his thick brows furrowed and eyes glaring, a long scar slashing from his forehead to his cheekbone. Dividing his bushy brow, Zhao Juqian felt a flicker of surprise. This man was no friend. As the door beside him swung open, his mother dashed past him, intent on pleading with Guohu for mercy for her son. However, Zhao Juqian swiftly pulled her back, shielding her behind him. He noticed the large steel knife in Guohu's hand, which twitched ominously as his mother approached. It was clear that if she took another step forward, she would be met with that very weapon. Yet, Zhao Juqian felt no fear, sneering, "Your son deserved to die long ago. If you have an issue with that, feel free to come and meet your own demise." Guohu erupted in furious laughter. "Very well, you possess guts, to endure for so long. Your demise at my son's hands is not unjust. However, what a pity. Had you continued to endure, perhaps you could have amounted to something. Today, you are destined to die here." With that, he hefted the large steel knife, advancing step by step. "Mother, please return to the house. I will handle this," Zhao Juqian reassured her with a pat on her hand. Though his mother was worried, she did not retreat, but instead stood beneath the eaves. A twig snapped beneath her foot, the sound resonating like a clarion call for battle. Guohu leapt into action, his blade descending, but Zhao Juqian narrowly evaded, countering with a powerful punch that struck Guohu squarely. Zhao Juqian staggered back 3 steps. Guohu's face flushed, astonished as he regarded Zhao Juqian, a martial artist. Zhao Juqian was equally taken aback. In this age where cultivation was revered, it was surprising to encounter someone who practiced martial arts. The strength of Guohu's physique had clearly reached at least the 3rd level of martial arts. Otherwise, he would have crumpled from that punch. The two men eyed each other warily, aware that the battle for their lives had begun, and a single misstep could lead to their eternal downfall. As the dawn broke, Zhao Juqian felt a surge of energy within him, his spirit reaching its zenith as he meticulously observed every movement of his opponent. He then commenced his evasive maneuvers, elegantly sidestepping Guohu's attacks while occasionally striking at his ACU points. In but a brief moment, he had depleted Guohu's strength. Guohu's strike slowed and his breath became labored. Zhao Juqian seized the opportune moment to deliver a decisive blow to Guohu's heart. A torrent of chaotic spiritual energy surged into Guohu's body, swiftly disrupting his vital channels. With a resounding thud, Guohu collapsed, his eyes losing their luster, and with a final kick of his legs, he succumbed to death. Zhao Juqian exhaled, feeling a wave of relaxation wash over him. At that moment, his mother emerged from beneath the eaves, her forehead glistening with sweat, evidently shaken by the harrowing battle she had just witnessed. "My son, when did you become so formidable?" she inquired. Zhao Juqian smiled and replied, "Mother, did you not hear his words? I have always possessed this strength. I simply chose not to reveal it before. But let us not dwell on that. I shall take care of this body. You should look after father at home. I believe we can enjoy a few days of tranquility ahead." "Very well, be cautious," his mother cautioned, still somewhat uneasy as he departed. Without further ado, Zhao Juqian grasped a hoe. Shouldering the corpse as he made his way outside, he dug a deep pit in a secluded corner of the slums, unceremoniously discarding Guohu into it. The winds howled, and the world around fell silent. At the Lin family tavern, Zhao Juqian found himself deep in contemplation, propping his chin on his hand. This incessant thievery cannot continue. Eventually, I shall be caught and face dire consequences. It is time to test the capabilities of the Genesis space. Emptying this warehouse should be a simple task, as the thought crossed his mind. He recalled the method of utilizing the Genesis space. With a mere flicker of intent, an invisible ripple spread forth, soon reaching a colossal bamboo basket brimming with various beast meats. With a gentle tug, the entire basket vanished from sight, reappearing within the Genesis space, having awakened the memories of a divine emperor. He maneuvered his thoughts with ease. In no time, the warehouse stood empty, save for a scattering of ice fragments strewn across the floor. With satisfaction, Zhao Juqian cast a glance at the warehouse door. Choosing not to return to close it, I must pay a visit to the Lin family soon, starting with relocating their ancestral shrine. How dare they provoke me? They are truly courting disaster. A sinister thought took root in Zhao Juqian's mind. As dawn's light began to filter in, the head chef of the Lin family tavern, accompanied by 10 subordinates, arrived as usual. His corpulent visage bore a scowl, his eyes narrowed into slits that glimmered with a fierce intensity. Who among you was the last to leave? Why was the door left unlocked? Upon noticing the unlatched door, he paused momentarily before hissing at his underlings. The subordinates exchanged glances, their anger suppressed. Is the key always with you? You re the last to leave every time, taking the most valuable items. Now the door is left unlocked, and we are blamed? Observing their expressions, the chef scoffed, Enough. Let us see if any brazen thieves dare to steal from us. He had long since forgotten whether he had indeed neglected to lock the door the previous evening, but he felt no fear of intruders at the Lin family tavern. At worst, a couple of stray cats or dogs might scavenge for scraps. How much could they possibly consume? Leading his 10 subordinates inside, the glow of 2 red lanterns illuminated a significant portion of the warehouse, revealing a sight that sent chills down his spine. Gone. Everything is gone. Quickening his pace, he ventured further in, discovering that the area designated for valuable items was similarly devoid of stock. Precious medicinal ingredients, each worth a substantial sum, had vanished without a trace. Who can tell me what has transpired here? His rotund body turned sharply, surveying his subordinates with a furious glare, unleashing a thunderous roar. Yet, none could offer an explanation. The 10 subordinates remained silent, paralyzed by fear. The chef, like a restless insect on a hot stove, paced back and forth. Daylight soon broke, and the tavern's front desk manager and waitstaff began their busy routines, with numerous customers arriving to order steamed buns and other dishes. However, as time dragged on, patrons grew increasingly impatient, their orders still unfulfilled. What in the world is going on? Why are the dishes not being served? Many voiced their frustrations, hurling insults at the waitstaff. After berating the staff, several customers stormed off, though some demanded compensation, believing their time was far too valuable to waste. As the uproar escalated, the head of the Lin family was informed of the situation. Chapter 5. The configuration of spiritual liquid. Meanwhile, Zhao Juqian could not be burdened by the Lin family's troubles. He had settled into a peaceful slumber at home. By the time the sun had fully risen, his mother had returned after washing the clothes. With their food supplies depleted, there was no breakfast to prepare, prompting her to seek light work to conserve energy. Zhao Juqian promptly retrieved some food, presenting it to his mother. Juqian, what is this? Although his mother had many questions, she refrained from pressing further. Given their current circumstances, her focus was on surviving this crisis, and she would find ways to make amends later. With that thought, her worries began to dissipate. After enjoying a pleasant breakfast, Zhao Juqian instructed his mother to boil a pot of hot water, intending to prepare a medicinal bath for his father to expedite his recovery and cleanse any lingering injuries. Before long, the large tub in the room was filled with rare and precious medicinal herbs, and he gently assisted his father into the bath. Among the herbs was a particularly rare variety known as feather spirit grass, which in his previous life had been exceedingly scarce. Now, miraculously, he had gathered around 30 stalks. Given the state of the Lin family warehouse, it was evident that these herbs were no longer as rare as before. A decidedly positive development. Juqian, where did you acquire these herbs? His father inquired, astonished, as he recognized several of the herbs in the tub. Each herb was worth enough to sustain their family for an entire month. The value of this tub was wealth beyond what he had encountered in a lifetime. Zhao Juqian smiled at his father. These are gifts from a friend. They will be sending more in a few days. With a mischievous grin, he added, You'll see. His father, filled with curiosity, probed, What wealthy friend do you have that I have not heard of? Zhao Juqian opted not to elaborate further, encouraging his father to soak for a few hours while he retreated to his room. Feeling it was time to enhance his own abilities. Though he was uncertain whether the Lin family would come seeking retribution, Guo Hu's death might inadvertently draw them into the fray. Given that Guo Hu's relatives were connected to the Lin family, their strength would undoubtedly surpass that of Guo Hu. Zhao Juqian understood he must prepare himself. He gathered a small wooden tub filled with various medicinal herbs, intending to use their power to open the 2 acupoints in the soles of his feet. This would not only clear his mind and enhance his cognitive reflexes, but also increase his foot speed. In the realm of martial arts, nothing is unbreakable. Only speed is invincible. Reflecting on his 2,000 years of cultivation, he quickly devised a rough plan for his training. First and foremost, he needed to enhance his speed. With a creak, he closed the door to his room. Zhao Juqian concentrated, bringing the hot water basin into the Genesis space. Suddenly, the divine envoy of the Genesis space emerged, casting a disdainful glance at Zhao Juqian. You are not faring too well, are you? These are low-grade beast meats, some of which are mere domestic livestock. What do you intend to do with such a haul? Zhao Juqian, no longer feeling chatty in the presence of others, waved dismissively, just storing some food. Unfazed by the envoy's judgment, he sat down, immersing his legs in the basin, activating the Genesis Immortal Sutra as waves of dense spiritual energy flowed into his body, continuously impacting the acupoints in the soles of his feet. At this moment, in the Lin family estate, the family patriarch, Lin Zhongnan, a man with a square face and thick brows, sat in the high seat of the main hall, surveying the several kneeling individuals before him with an expression of barely contained rage. It has been a day, and you have yet to uncover anything. His voice emerged cold and biting, the weight of his powerful presence causing those present to struggle for breath. Among the kneeling figures was the corpulent head chef, lying prostrate on the ground like a small mountain, trembling under the pressure. Patriarch, we have found no suspicious individuals. Such a quantity of ingredients could not possibly be hidden. Even moving them would require hundreds of people. And such a commotion would not escape our notice. Lin Zhongnan's brows furrowed, his eyes bulging with fury as he bellowed, Then tell me, where have those materials gone? Who has stolen them? Have you offended someone powerful in recent days? The business of the Lin family tavern is trivial for a titan like the Lin family. The three prominent clans of North Border City primarily engage in mining, rendering such enterprises mere pocket change. However, should the tavern be thoroughly robbed, as it has occurred within the Lin family, the news would undoubtedly reach the other two families and spread like wildfire. What face would the Lin family have left at that point? This matter must be investigated. The head chef lowered his gaze even further and remarked, Everything has been normal at our tavern lately. We have not offended anyone, and things remain as they have always been. Lin Zhongnan surveyed the other elders of the clan at a tea that moment. An elder stepped forward and said, Patriarch, a few days ago, the young lady attacked a hunter, ultimately rendering him limbless. Lin Zhongnan was momentarily taken aback. Oh? Send someone to investigate. Capture anyone who appears suspicious. The elder hesitated for a moment, but quickly went about his task. The other elders were unable to recall any recent grievances. Under these circumstances, Lin Zhongnan formed his own judgment. It was evident that such power could only belong to the other two families, and perhaps they were even colluding together. Thus, he dismissed the other clan members, retaining only 5 principal elders to share his thoughts. The patriarch's concerns are not unfounded. Indeed, your foresight is commendable. I concur with your assessment. Soon, someone began to flatter Lin Zhongnan. Indeed, the Yu and Fong families have long been established in North Border City, and their animosity towards us has not emerged overnight. I propose we strike preemptively, using thunderous methods to deal with one of them. A middle-aged man with a hawkish nose suggested, making a slicing gesture across his throat. Lin Zhongnan shook his head and gestured for silence. No, their strength should not be underestimated. We ought to remain cautious. They are likely waiting for us to act. The items lost this time were not particularly valuable. Yet the loss of face necessitated someone to take the blame. Third brother, you shall handle this matter. The hawkish-nosed man immediately clasped his fists in acknowledgement. Perhaps before long, a certain notorious faction within North Border City would be slaughtered for the alleged theft of Lin family assets. This baseless accusation serving to restore the Lin family's lost dignity. The vast clan did not halt its operations due to this minor incident. Rather, it became increasingly vigilant. Chapter 6. Believe it or not, nightfall arrived swiftly. Zhao Juqian and his family enjoyed a delightful dinner, the remnants of which he disposed of into the Genesis space. It was best not to provoke others at such times. What's going on? I feel as though someone is watching us. As Zhao Juqian lay down, an unsettling sensation of being scrutinized washed over him, accompanied by a disdainful, meaningful smile. Immediately, a powerful divine consciousness began to permeate the air. In the shadow of the house opposite, a dark figure gradually became visible to Zhao Juqian. Upon noticing that the lights in his home had extinguished, the figure began to circle around the house, searching thoroughly, yet found nothing suspicious. How could such modest rooms possibly contain the items from the tavern's warehouse? There was not even a hint of meaty odor emanating from them, even if they wished to establish a connection. It seemed improbable. With that, the figure turned and departed. Zhao Juqian gazed at the retreating silhouette, cursing inwardly. What a fellow! A powerhouse of the divine sea realm. My physique is unlikely to contend with him. In the realm of cultivation, the levels ascend from low to high. Spirit Scholar, Divine Sea, Profound Understanding, Mystic Gate, Origin Mansion, Concentrated Spirit, Divine Wheel, Sky Reaching, Void Breaking, and Divine Emperor. Each level is akin to a chasm, yet actual combat strength is significantly influenced by weapons, techniques, talent, and resources. Thus, true powerhouses are well-rounded. Only those who pursue longevity and cultivation relentlessly seek higher realms. In his previous life, Zhao Juqian had reached the Divine Emperor realm, standing at the pinnacle of the world. Once arrogant and reckless, now he understood that beyond the heavens, there are indeed greater beings, and beyond the Divine Emperor, even more formidable realms exist. The night passed without incident, marked by the monotonous routine of cultivation. The Yongquan acupoint beneath his feet had been opened, and after enduring 100 days of trials in the Genesis space, his speed had become comparable to that of an average divine sea realm cultivator. With his own cultivation having reached the 6th level of Spirit Scholar, having exhausted his medicinal materials, he thought to buy an alchemy furnace but found himself lacking funds. He decided to stroll through the city to see what he might find. With a plan in mind, Zhao Juqian quickly set off. The sky over North Border City was shrouded in gloom. Before dawn, heavy snow began to fall, blanketing the entire city in a thick layer of white. The already frigid city turning bitterly cold. Candied hawthorn, so sweet, so sweet. Fresh meat buns, just out of the oven. The shouts of vendors echoed throughout, and in such weather, the people of the North Border had grown accustomed to it. Their daily rhythms remained undisturbed. As Zhao Juqian walked forward, he unknowingly arrived at the entrance of the Lin family tavern, which was bustling with activity, seemingly unaffected by the recent shortages of goods. Hey, ugly beggar, don't loiter here. There's food in the back, go there. The tavern's doorman, seeing Zhao Juqian's appearance, waved his hand dismissively. Who would want a beggar blocking their entrance? Zhao Juqian's eyes lit up. Lacking money, was this not a fortuitous opportunity? With a swift motion, he struck the doorman, rendering him unconscious, and immediately began to search the doorman's person, doing so with remarkable efficiency. For a 6th-level Spirit Scholar to strike down an ordinary person was akin to an adult striking a child. Before bystanders could even discern his features, he had vanished into the crowd. What just happened? Who dared to assault someone from the Lin family? I don't know. Didn't he catch a glimpse? Heavens, is there going to be a rebellion? A beggar just robbed a Lin family doorman? Soon, the tavern manager noticed the commotion at the entrance and came out. Seeing his doorman sprawled on the ground, he frowned and shouted, "What is going on? Who has the audacity to cause a disturbance here?" The murmurs were interrupted by his stern voice. Upon seeing no one respond, the manager's expression darkened. He kicked the doorman awake and scolded, "What's the matter?" The doorman, still dazed, replied, "Manager, a beggar ambushed me." After some questioning, the doorman recounted the events, but he could not recall the assailant's appearance. Having only met him briefly, he would certainly remember the faces of influential figures. But he would hardly pay attention to a beggar's visage. The doorman instinctively patted his waist, suddenly alarmed. To prevent his wife from lending money to the neighbor, he had kept all his cash on him. Who would have thought he would be knocked out and robbed? "My wallet is gone." "You fool," the manager scoffed, but he nonetheless reported this incident to the family, as they were quite concerned about recent happenings at the tavern. An attack on a Lin family doorman was unprecedented. Without a doubt, this incident would be attributed to the Yu and Feng families. Meanwhile, having successfully stolen some money, Zhao Juqian had reached the entrance of the Alchemy Association. However, the amount he had was insufficient to purchase a decent alchemy furnace and materials, so he sought to sell them a formula instead. "Halt! Who is this little beggar? You don't belong here." Just as he arrived at the entrance, he was again met with scorn. Zhao Juqian sighed inwardly. Are people nowadays so superficial? Yet he paid little heed to the disdainful gaze of these mortals. After being rebuked twice, he grew somewhat impatient, furrowing his brow and smiling. I have an important matter to discuss with your superiors. I advise you not to waste time. Otherwise, the consequences will be beyond your capacity to bear. The two guards exchanged glances, both recognizing the fear in each other's eyes. This beggar is no ordinary one. Please wait here. I shall inform my superior. Zhao Juqian nodded leisurely, smiling at him. Before long, a middle-aged man with a square face emerged, dressed in simple alchemist robes, with a badge hanging from his chest, engraved with two small stars. A second-tier alchemist. Is it you, this beggar, seeking me out? Upon seeing Zhao Juqian's tattered appearance, which carried a faint odor, the man, in his capacity as the association's president, would not easily meet with a beggar. However, having read many fantasy novels recently, he was intrigued by the unusual behavior of this lowly individual. Hoping to seize a fleeting opportunity, Zhao Juqian smiled and nodded, saying, "You've been attempting to refine a third-tier spirit-gathering pill recently. Haven to you. Adding crimson fruit in your case is futile. A furnace explosion is to be expected." Lu Ming gasped in shock, inhaling sharply. "Hiss, how did you know I was trying to refine a third-tier pill?" Zhao Juqian spread his hands. "Are you sure you want to converse in such a public place?" Lu Ming chuckled heartily, immediately leading Zhao Juqian up to the attic, where he prepared fragrant tea and began to reassess the disheveled youth before him. Zhao Juqian lifted the teacup and took a sip, remarking, "The primary distinction between a third-grade gathering spirit pill and a second-grade one lies in the use of the purple spirit fruit. The second-grade pill employs the purple wood fruit, aged 2 years, while the third-grade gathering spirit pill utilizes the purple spirit fruit, aged 3 years. Although they are merely variations of the same fruit based on age, the medicinal properties differ vastly. Moreover, using red fruit as an auxiliary material is utterly impractical. Additionally, your adherence to the prescription principle of 1 monarch, 2 ministers, and 3 assistants has constrained your understanding. Your grasp of medicinal properties seems rather shallow, and your control over the timing is inadequate, rendering you unqualified to reach the level of a third-grade alchemist." His tone was bland, devoid of any emotion, as if he were merely stating a fact. Lu Ming began to feel a surge of irritation, yet the more he listened, the more his heart raced, as though he were receiving a profound revelation, with Zhao Juqian dissecting his shortcomings with remarkable clarity. "You have keen insight, I must admit. It is rather embarrassing that at nearly 50 years of age, I have yet to attain the status of a third-grade alchemist. I suppose I shall die here in obscurity." Zhao Juqian smiled and replied, "However, you have encountered me. If you assist me in a task, I shall help you ascend to the rank of third-grade alchemist. Of course, whether you choose to believe this is entirely up to you." Chapter 7. A sudden outburst of violence, I believe. Lu Ming bowed his head deeply, gazing at the calm and composed youth before him, whose mysterious aura resembled that of a superior. He had witnessed such talent among the young alchemists at the Alchemist Association. "Then please help me sell this recipe." Zhao Juqian produced several sheets of draft paper from his garments, inscribed with the recipe for the concentration pill, detailing the medicinal ingredients and the refining process in exquisite detail. Though the ink was still wet, Lu Ming read through it repeatedly, his expression growing increasingly astonished. This was a first-grade pill, designed to assist in cultivation, enabling one to swiftly enter a meditative state and reduce the time spent in ineffective sitting. Cultivators seeking longevity or strength would undoubtedly become obsessed with such a pill. "How do you wish to sell it, and for how much?" Lu Ming stammered, his voice trembling. "I will take 40% of the profits. With you providing the materials and refining," Zhao Juqian stated. "Agreed. No hesitation," Lu Ming replied without a moment's thought, fearful that Zhao Juqian might change his mind. "Shall we draft a contract?" he inquired. "No need for such formality. Simply distribute my dividends regularly each month," Zhao Juqian replied, unperturbed by the possibility of betrayal. They would dare to defy him, and Zhao Juqian would promptly empty the Alchemist Association's warehouse. After concluding their negotiations, Zhao Juqian requested an alchemical furnace and 10 portions of body refining materials. Upon returning to the bustling streets, a sensational piece of news swept across the city. The Tianlang mercenary corps had been annihilated for stealing from the Lin family's tavern. Their entire clan executed, and the mercenary headquarters left in a river of blood, with not a soul spared. The Tianlang mercenary corps had always been notorious for their tyranny. No one had anticipated such a devastating fate. It was truly a moment of satisfaction for the populace. The three great families were formidable. Even a minor family like the Lin clan could effortlessly eliminate a mercenary group of over 100 members with just a slight exertion. Zhao Juqian, however, paid little heed to such matters. In the sea, the big fish devour the small, and in the city, the weak are devoured by the strong. Having lived for over 2 millennia, he had grown accustomed to such occurrences. Yet he remained unaware that this incident had been set in motion by him. Within the Fong family's grand hall, the head of the Fong family occupied the seat of honor. With the head of the Yu family seated to his right, Fong Tianxiong furrowed his brow, stating, "You brother, I have noticed that the Lin family's recent actions have become rather excessive. Such a brutal massacre and their brazen arrogance may overshadow our two families." Yu Shihao shook his head, chuckling. When heaven seeks to destroy a man, it first drives him mad. While reputation is indeed significant, we still have the city lord above us. Should he intervene, our three families combined would not stand a chance. To label a mercenary corps as criminals based solely on theft is something only a fool would believe. Lin Zhongnan is being utterly foolish. Fong Tianxiong remained troubled. Do you know that Lin Zhongnan has a son? This year, he was chosen by the royal family of the Great Qin to serve as a guard, rumored to be a constant companion to the crown prince. The city lord may very well. Yu Shihao's expression changed. Fong brother, you should have shared such crucial intelligence with me. I was indeed unaware. Thus, Lin Zhongnan's current actions seem aimed at expanding his influence while seeking an opportunity to provoke us, intending to pick us off one by one. Contemplating this, both men felt a weight in their hearts, exchanging glances as a ruthless glint ignited within them. Upon returning home, Zhao Juqian discovered a crowd gathered at his doorstep. Neighbors he seldom saw were pointing and whispering among themselves. "Juqian, if you're nearby, leave quickly. Don't concern yourself with us. Flee from Beijingshi and live elsewhere." He had not yet glimpsed his mother, but he could hear her anguished voice from afar, tinged with a heart-wrenching sorrow. Zhao Juqian's anger surged. This was the first time he felt such fury since his reincarnation. Even when others had insulted him today, he had remained unperturbed. Planting his feet firmly, Zhao Juqian leapt upwards, stepping onto the shoulders of two individuals before landing heavily on the ground with a resounding thud that instantly drew everyone's attention. He beheld his mother collapsed on the ground, their home reduced to ruins, her body leaning against a crumbling wall, blood trickling from her mouth, while he could not find any sign of his father. Upon witnessing this, Zhao Juqian's eyes turned blood-red, glaring at a proud-looking middle-aged man among the crowd as if he were a corpse. "Mother!" Zhao Juqian stifled his rage and rushed to her side. Assessing her injuries, the damage was internal, yet with his alchemical skills, he could restore her to health. Cough, cough. "Why have you returned?" His mother wept. He then turned to the debris where his father's bed lay, clearing the rubble to find his father unconscious. Checking his pulse, he was relieved to find it was merely a faint, with no serious injuries, primarily due to the wooden structure of the house, while the foundation was made of stone and cement. "Rest assured, your family shall be reunited, and I shall kindly escort you all to the underworld," sneered the middle-aged man leading the group. Zhao Juqian set his father aside, seized a wooden stick, inhaled deeply, and propelled himself forward. Before the man could react, the stick pierced his right chest, pinning him to the ground. "Ah!" The man let out a scream akin to a slaughtered pig. Finally reacting after several seconds, the two subordinates beside him stared in disbelief at their master, who had yet to receive aid. "What happened?" "I barely saw, and Lin Dapio is already down. How could he be defeated in an instant?" Lin Dapio, lying on the ground, shouted incoherently, "You useless fools, get up and kill him." "No, first save me, help me." The two subordinates hurriedly moved forward, but Zhao Juqian had no intention of sparing them. With two swift kicks, the pair flew backward like kites with severed strings, landing with their heads at an unnatural angle, devoid of breath. Cough, cough. "You dare to openly slay a member of the Lin family? You deserve to die 1,000 deaths." Lin Dapio exclaimed, glaring at Zhao Juqian. Zhao Juqian smirked disdainfully. "Deserve to die? Then today, it shall be you. If the Lin family dares to provoke me, they shall surely perish." As his words fell, he crushed Lin Dapio's chest with a single foot, causing his heart to rupture and resulting in his demise. Instantly, the crowd erupted in chaos. Zhao Juqian had slain a member of the Lin family. When had he become so formidable? Wasn't he just a timid boy? Gazing at his fallen parents, Zhao Juqian swiftly withdrew the wooden stick, casting a sidelong glance at the onlookers. Why are you still here? Do I need to invite you for a meal? His voice was icy, as if ready to kill at any moment. Drip, drip, the blood from the stick fell to the ground, unleashing a terrifying pressure that swept over every onlooker. Run! In mere moments, the area had cleared entirely. Chapter 8. It would be best not to provoke me. The night had deepened, and thick snow began to fall like feathers against the blackened sky. Zhao Juqian exhaled a sigh of relief as he transferred the concoction he had brewed in the alchemical furnace into a jade vial. To refine pills, one must reach the Divine Sea realm, allowing spiritual energy to be released. For now, it was sufficient to use the concocted liquid to treat his parents' injuries. Following the destruction of their home, he had taken his parents to a nearby inn and purchased them new clothing. His father's injuries were not severe, but he was weakened by the accumulation of old and new wounds, making recovery challenging. After consuming a meager meal, he fell asleep. Mother, rest well. I will be in the next room. From now on, anyone who dares to harm you shall be met with death. You have always protected me since childhood. Now that I have grown, it is my turn to safeguard you. His parents had long surpassed the age for cultivation, their roots firmly established. Unless they were to obtain miraculous elixirs, the chance of stepping onto the path of immortality was slim. With a long-lost smile, his mother replied, "My son, we cannot contend with a behemoth like the Lin family. You should depart from here at dawn." Clearly, the impression that large families leave on ordinary citizens is profoundly etched in their minds. Even upon witnessing his performance today, the mother harbors little confidence in him. Zhao Juqian gazes sternly at her, exuding an air of authority. She need not worry, for the Lin family has nothing to fear. It is best they do not provoke me, mother. Rest assured and focus on your recovery. In a couple of days, I shall take you to purchase a grand residence. Having never encountered such a demeanor from Zhao Juqian before, his mother feels a rare sense of reassurance swelling within her. Upon returning to his chamber, Zhao Juqian takes a moment to collect his thoughts before entering the Genesis space. Hey, I say, O divine envoy. This Genesis space has a rather grand name, yet all I see is a vast expanse of greenery. Where are the legendary artifacts and divine beasts? A handsome figure materializes, casting a disdainful glance at the new master. You have such lofty expectations. The Genesis space is meant to be created by oneself. Does it not align with its name? Yes, yes. But how does one create? Is it merely through imagination that things will manifest here? Zhao Juqian feels somewhat exasperated. The divine envoy adopts a dismissive demeanor. That is certainly not the case. You must gather materials to bring into this space. Currently, the remaining spiritual energy is but a fraction of its peak capacity, insufficient for the master to conjure objects with mere thought. So it is possible, just not at the moment. Zhao Juqian is taken aback. The divine envoy continues, moreover, you need not rely on antiquated methods to collect items from the outside. You can utilize the Genesis space for retrieval, although it will consume more spiritual energy and be limited by your divine consciousness. Zhao Juqian comprehends this revelation, his heart aflame with indignation. Since the Lin family dares to harm my kin, I shall uproot their household. He promptly learns a technique for concealing his presence, ensuring that each time he strikes, he applies the mud from the streets to mask his scent. Not even the most astute hunting dog would know where to pursue. Having completed these preparations, night has fallen, and a fierce snowstorm rages outside. Even those strong in the Divine Sea realm must rest at such a time. Soon, he arrives at the foot of the Lin family's estate, which sprawls over several thousand square meters. The main courtyard nestles against a mountain, flanked by two tall edifices. The most crucial structures, the head of the family's residence and various resource storages, lie at the rear, while the two towers house martial artists nurtured by the Lin family. Such an architectural style plainly indicates the presence of significant treasures. A mere glance confirms a tower that should be the Lin family's so-called library, where tomes and martial arts techniques are stored. Maximizing his divine consciousness, he envelopes a vast portion of the Lin estate, then gracefully vaults over the wall, landing soundlessly in the snow. A quick survey reveals that not a single patrolling guard is in sight. Zhao Juqian stealthily advances through the shadowy corners of the buildings, soon reaching the base of the tower, where he can distinctly sense the presence of a martial artist on the first floor. As anticipated, I am well prepared. A smirk graces Zhao Zhuqian's lips as he retrieves a pouch of powder, a soul-dulling powder, colorless and odorless. Just a whiff will induce a deep slumber, akin to a loss of consciousness. He consumes a pill, gazing toward the doorway, then gently scatters a handful of the soul-dulling powder. The white powder, mingling with the frigid wind, wafts through the cracks and into the tower. Zhao Zhuqian waits for half an hour in the biting cold, until a dull thud reverberates from within. Finally, he has succumbed. Opening the door, he discovers a figure sprawled on the floor, rhythmic snores escaping from him. With a swift motion, he sends a shard of broken tile hurtling through the air, piercing the man's skull and causing blood to gush forth. Following the method provided by the divine envoy, Zhao Zhuqian extends his divine consciousness to encompass the entire tower, summoning the powers of the Genesis space to envelop it. With a crisp crack, the tower is uprooted, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Oh no! Zhao Zhuqian's heart races. Such a loud noise will surely attract attention. He must flee. Yet, before he can take several steps, shouts erupt behind him. The library has vanished. Quickly, seal all exits. In an instant, the entire Lin family is thrown into disarray. Martial artists flood from the dormitories, and several spot Zhao Zhuqian's figure, converging upon him. Curse steward! What kind of foolish plan is this that has caused such a commotion? Zhao Zhuqian curses vehemently. Returning home is out of the question. I must escape to the outskirts or seek refuge with one of the other two prominent families. But since I aim to divert the blame, why not head to the Lord's manor and stir the pot there? Resolving this in his mind, Zhao Zhuqian no longer hesitates. Covering his face with tattered cloth, he flips over the wall brazenly. Here, a beggar! A nearby guard immediately spots him and raises the alarm. Zhao Zhuqian employs his agility, sprinting toward the Lord's manor, while over 200 martial artists from the Lin family trail closely behind him. Lin Zhongnan, realizing the library's disappearance, feels veins bulging on his forehead. Capture that person alive. It is imperative. Master, that individual seems to be heading toward the Lord's manor. Could he be affiliated with the Lord? A senior member of the Lin family furrows his brow, clearly aware that wherever Zhao Zhuqian runs, complications will arise. However, someone capable of causing such uproar within the Lin family cannot be an ordinary person. They must either belong to the Yu or Feng families, or be connected to the Lord. Regardless of which faction he antagonizes, the outcome will not bode well. However, this person surely knows what has transpired here. How could such a substantial structure as the library simply vanish? Capturing him beforehand will put an end to everything. Lin Zhongnan hastily commands, "Let us go as well. We must not allow him to enter the Lord's manor." With a gust of wind at their heels, several experts from the Divine Sea realm immediately pursue him. Chapter 9. The theft at the Lord's manor under the cloak of darkness, amidst the biting cold. Many hearts are ablaze with fervor, while some are destined for sleepless nights. Damn it, those ahead are sprinting too swiftly. We cannot keep up. A Lin family martial artist curses from behind. Lin Zhongnan finds himself at the forefront, observing Zhao Zhuqian's shadow leaping through the darkness, occasionally pausing to glance back at his pursuers. This is intolerable. Lin Zhongnan channels his essence, infusing his legs with spiritual power, launching himself forward with explosive speed, closing the gap between them in mere moments. Little thief, where do you think you're going? Zhao Zhuqian remains unperturbed. Having long noticed Lin Zhongnan, he rolls into the shadows, and by the time Lin Zhongnan arrives, Zhao Zhuqian has vanished without a trace. The footprints end abruptly here. No trace in the snow. This is the work of someone far beyond the Divine Sea realm, Lin Zhongnan muses, but then doubts arise. If it were such a powerful being, they would hardly concern themselves with a library. Judging by the youthfulness of the figure, perhaps he is overthinking things. After a moment of hesitation, Lin Zhongnan resumes his pursuit toward the Lord's manor, trusting his instincts that this person is no formidable opponent. Zhao Zhuqian quickens his pace, soon arriving at the Lord's manor. A quick glance reveals several critical locations, and he dismisses the courtyards of the high-ranking officials. Finding a warehouse building instead, he scans the area thrice with his divine consciousness, ensuring no one is present, before approaching to open the warehouse door. Inside lies a trove of mundane treasures, piles of gold and silver, but not a single spiritual herb in sight. Such items hold little value for cultivators, explaining the absence of any guards. They would barely suffice for purchasing a home, Zhao Juqian sighs, astonished at how easily he has infiltrated the Lord's manor. With the previous experience fresh in his mind, Zhao Juqian navigates the warehouse with ease. As he exits, a shout reverberates within the manor. Alert! A large number of martial artists are approaching. Prepare for defense. The Lin family has arrived. It seems they are taking the main entrance, negotiating with the Lord's people. Zhao Juqian scurries along a side path toward the back courtyard of the Lord's manor. How irritating! The Lin family certainly knows how to choose their moments. Causing a ruckus at this hour, do they not allow anyone to sleep? A steward, flanked by two commanders from the Divine Sea realm, curses as they head toward the main gate. Steward Hai, the Lin family seems to have grown quite audacious lately. I've heard they have allies in the Imperial City. Steward Hai dismisses this notion. I am aware. It is merely the Lin family head's son serving alongside the Crown Prince. Tio acts so brazenly now is simply courting disaster. The three rush on, oblivious to Zhao Juqian lurking in the corner. Zhao Juqian breathes a sigh of relief. It appears these so-called families possess some influence. Those without backing must push their own toward the centers of power, yet few consider becoming the nucleus of power themselves. Seizing the moment before dawn breaks, Zhao Juqian seeks an unoccupied path to exit the Lord's manor. As he vaults over the wall, his feet barely touch the ground when a figure swiftly approaches. Evidently having locked onto him from a distance, seems the other party's divine consciousness is not to be underestimated, able to pinpoint him from such a range. I have underestimated the people in this city. Gently landing, he refrains from hastily retreating into the Genesis space, instead slipping into the shadows. Before long, an elder appears at the spot where Zhao Juqian had vanished, puzzled. What is going on? He was right here. How could he suddenly disappear? The elderly man was hunched, his visage withered, and his white hair billowed in the chilling wind. As he spoke, his eyes flashed like lightning, scanning the surroundings. After searching in vain for footprints, he could only shake his head in resignation. Who, after all, would dare to infiltrate the Lord's estate alone if they were not of a formidable caliber? When the sun rose, Zhao Juqian had already made his appearance in the dormitory. Downstairs, several early risers had begun to congregate for breakfast, with many others arriving from outside, bringing news of the previous night's events. Have you heard? The Lord's estate and the Lin family have both been robbed. Exclaimed one. What audacity! This should make for quite a spectacle. The chatter grew increasingly animated, and Zhao Juqian's parents had also regained their mobility, allowing him to escort them downstairs for a meal. His mother, Elle Fulling, was somewhat oblivious to the world, enchanted by the exaggerated tales of others, equating the theft to a royal loss, which seemed irrelevant to her as an ordinary citizen. However, his father, Zhao Baizhu, was different. Raised on hunting and with a penchant for gossip, he, despite still recovering, interjected. The Lord's estate, of all places, has been robbed. In my many years, I have never heard of such a thing. It is truly astonishing. Zhao Juqian supported him, unable to suppress a smirk, thinking, if only you knew your son was behind this, you would hardly be so amused. Yet, he refrained from disclosing the truth to his parents, wishing to spare them undue worry. The patrons at breakfast were common folk, unconcerned about Zhao Baiju's ragged appearance, and remarked, indeed, it is quite a peculiar occurrence. However, it is said that a distinguished guest from the imperial capital will be arriving at the Lord's estate today. This matter may soon be swept under the rug. Their lips curled into smug smiles. The surrounding crowd grew curious, exchanging brotherly banter, swiftly uncovering the details. One of the men had a brother on duty at the Lord's estate and shared that in 10 days. The Crown Prince, accompanied by several princes, would come to the northern border city for a winter hunt, prompting the Lord to prepare in advance. An announcement was expected soon. The northern border city must present a fresh and vibrant image to welcome the Crown Prince. After breakfast, Zhao Juqian helped his parents change into new attire, each acquiring 2 sets of clothing, along with a small residence within the city. His father sat in the grand hall, admiring the brand new chairs and the spacious courtyard outside, elatedly exclaiming, "Ha ha, son, where did you acquire such funds to purchase a house? Honestly, your recent actions seem rather uncharacteristic. Were it not for the innate bond of blood and the genuine concern reflected in his son's gaze, he might have doubted whether this truly was his son." Zhao Juqian chuckled. Father, you may not be aware, but I eliminated a member of the Lin family yesterday and thoroughly cleaned out his wallet. The money therein suffices to buy a house. His father, recalling the treasures buried beneath their home, had not seen them, and although Elf Fulling had mentioned some details, hearing it from her son was hard to believe. Elf Fulling, however, was fraught with worry, sighing, Juqian, killing a Lin family member, especially one of notable status, will likely bring trouble your way. Perhaps we should consider leaving northern border city. If necessary, we could even depart from the Great Qin Kingdom. Zhao Juqian reassured her, Mother, there is no need for concern. The city has numerous matters requiring attention, and the three prominent families lack the manpower to contend with us. Following that, we have the winter hunt to prepare for. So we need not fret just yet. Thus, he managed to calm his parents. Chapter 10. The winter hunt. Once his parents were settled, Zhao Juqian entered the creation space, seizing the opportunity to explore his so-called creative abilities. A tall library stood on the grass, surrounded by a plethora of gold, silver, and jade artifacts. Zhao Juqian looked up at the top of the library and called out, Divine Messenger, I see I have gathered ample materials here. Yet you have yet to share with me the secrets of creation. The white-clad Divine Messenger descended from the tower, a golden fan inlaid with jade appearing in hand, which he gently waved. You've been quite active lately. With these materials, you can craft some furniture, but not much else. As he spoke, he waved his hand, sending a luminous orb into Zhao Juqian's mind, a torrent of information flooding in. At that moment, the power of his soul began to manifest, quickly deciphering the deluge of information. So that's how it is. After half an hour, Zhao Juqian opened his eyes, having formulated his own ideas. With a snap, the Divine Messenger closed the fan and smiled. It seems you have conceived a notion. Zhao Juqian nodded, realizing that to create a certain object, one must possess sufficient materials, but most importantly, an abundance of spiritual energy was necessary. Given the current circumstances, he could only forge furniture from gold and silver, unable to craft even a single weapon. Gold and silver may not have many uses, but they can be exchanged for other goods. Creating disposable items requires less spiritual energy. Zhao Juqian articulated his thoughts. The Divine Messenger nodded slightly. That is an excellent idea. What sort of disposable items do you wish to create? Zhao Juqian replied with a smile. You must be aware of the art of weapon crafting, correct? Imagining something entirely new is quite challenging. I prefer to replicate existing items. Previously, I learned of a thunderbolt device, which contains no gunpowder but is inscribed with flame and explosion runes. Once infused with spiritual energy, it detonates with tremendous force. The Divine Messenger, familiar with weapon crafting and having seen many similar disposable items, remarked, however, I do not possess those runes. All creations must be resolved by the master of the creation space. Following the death of the previous master, everything in the creation space had been reset to its primordial state, requiring a fresh start. Zhao Juqian confidently asserted, I will handle that myself. With that, he sat down to meditate, understanding that only by reaching the Divine Sea Realm would he be able to guide external spiritual energy. To craft the Thunderbolt device and inscribe runes within, he must quickly attain the Divine Sea Realm. The Spirit Scholar Realm served merely as a foundational stage for refining the body and veins. There was no rushing the process. Ordinary cultivation methods primarily focus on refining parts of the body. Breakthroughs in the early stages come swiftly, yet advancing to higher levels proves exceedingly difficult. Many, like Lin Dabiao, find themselves stuck at the 9th level of the Spirit Scholar Realm. Conversely, reaching the 9th level of the Divine Sea Realm poses even greater obstacles for subsequent breakthroughs. The more veins one refines, the more critical it becomes for future advancements to higher tiers. As the specific veins of the creation immortal scripture circulated, the substantial spiritual energy of the creation space gradually converged upon Zhao Juqian, refining his entire network of veins. 10 days later, on a winter morning, within the room occupied by Zhao Juqian, the creation space, in a state between reality and illusion, began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth as he practiced his technique. What is happening? Why has the sky darkened? The Lord and senior members of the three prominent families stood outside the city amidst the snowstorm. Initially, they had anticipated a bright day, yet suddenly dark clouds loomed ominously. The head of the Fong family furrowed his brow, glancing towards the southern road, noting the absence of any figures. Why, Lord? The Crown Prince mentioned his arrival today, but given this weather, should we prepare for contingencies? The Lord sensed the spiritual energy around him growing agitated and felt uneasy. Gradually, the sky began to unleash heavy snowfall, making visibility poor beyond 100 meters. He raised his hand and instructed those behind him. Dispatch individuals to clear the snow from the official road in shifts, ensuring the prince can enter smoothly. Understood, replied the members of the three prominent families. Soon, 4 teams were organized to take turns clearing the snow from the road. Meanwhile, within the creation space, Zhao Juqian remained oblivious to the unfolding changes. Over the past 10 days, he had spent nearly 50 days within the creation space, acquiring numerous metal ores, and had advanced his cultivation to the first level of the Divine Sea Realm. At this moment, Zhao Juqian halted his training, gazing at a collection of fist-sized thunderbolt devices, round and pitch black, their surfaces intricately inscribed with runes, alongside 10 larger crimson thunderbolt devices. He was curious about their power, particularly as he now faced the Divine Sea Realm. The 10 devices bore 2 additional runes, which should significantly amplify their potency. He pondered finding an opportunity to test them, having already devised a plan aimed at the Lin family. With a creak, he opened the door, finding his parents clad in thick fur coats, seated in the courtyard, warming themselves by the fire and sipping tea. They had grown accustomed to their new life here. Free from concerns about sustenance, most necessities could be procured at the market across the street. Father, mother. Zhao Juqian strode over, accepting the tea his father poured and taking a sip. Observing their injuries had fully healed, and their recent rest had rejuvenated their appearances significantly, he noted. Today, while shopping for groceries, I heard that the Crown Prince has arrived in our northern border city, accompanied by several brothers. The entourage is quite grand. Should we consider taking this opportunity to leave? Your injuries have healed, and we are capable of traveling now. His mother's brow furrowed with concern, while his father turned to Zhao Juqian, clearly valuing his opinion. Zhao Juqian replied, Father, Mother, there is no need for worry. They are likely contemplating whether I will seek vengeance on them. The Lin family's young lady harmed you first, and subsequently, both of you were injured by them. They initiated this conflict. Why should we flee? Both parents were aware of the situation, yet the formidable Lin family loomed above them like an unassailable law of nature, an embodiment of authority, my child. They lamented, we cannot contend with them. The law and reason offer no solace. The father spoke with a heavy heart. Zhao Qian, understanding the gravity of the matter, wished to spare his parents any emotional burden. Fearing that a confrontation with the Lin family might lead to irreparable ruin and lingering resentment. Do not worry, dear parents. I have my own methods to deal with them. Focus on your recovery. Despite their concerns, his parents reluctantly acquiesced. As Zhao Qian trudged through the snow-covered streets, the heavy snowfall painted the world in white. The sidewalks were lined with an array of vendors, and the streets were bustling with shoppers. More numerous than usual, the arrival of the Crown Prince demanded a display of grandeur and warmth in the northern city. Chapter 11. A living encounter. Zhao Qian marveled at the peculiar wares on either side, his heart swelling with appreciation for the beauty of the world. Make way, for the Crown Prince approaches. 2 rows of guards from the Lord's manor wove through the crowd, creating a wide avenue. Zhao Qian found himself squeezed behind a stall, turning to gaze toward the city gate. There, he beheld a golden dragon carriage, its immense canopy casting a shadow over the street, drawn by 6 magnificent white horses whose golden saddles and iron hooves clattered in unison. In front of the white horses marched a formidable contingent of 10 black-clad guards, their crimson tassels and dark robes adorned with golden embroidery, each wielding a long sword, exuding an air of unparalleled valor. It was astonishing that such outstanding individuals willingly served as mere guards. The townsfolk were taken aback. The aura of these 10 men was incomparable to that of the local noble youths. Huzzah! We welcome your highness. The leading guards knelt in the snow, and the townspeople followed suit. As the dragon carriage drew nearer, Zhao Qian noticed that there were no drapes obscuring the view. Instead, strings of pearls formed a delicate curtain. Through the shimmering strands, he caught a glimpse of a tall young man clad in golden robes, reclining against the back of the carriage. His dragon-like eyes narrowed as he surveyed the surroundings with an air of sovereign disdain. Suddenly, the Crown Prince's gaze fell upon a youth who remained standing, not kneeling in deference. How audacious! This young man, dressed in a thin black garment, with flowing black hair and deep-set eyes, stood out with his striking features and commanding presence. Like a crane among chickens, however, the prince, intent on maintaining his benevolent image in public, chose to merely remember the young man, intending to address him later. The dragon carriage glided past, followed by several opulent carriages drawn by 2 white horses. Undoubtedly the conveyances of other princes, a procession of over 300 individuals entered the city with great fanfare. Aside from the crown prince and his entourage, other princes were also accommodated within the 3 prominent families. As the procession continued far beyond, the guards slowly rose from their kneeling position. It seemed this hunting expedition was merely for show. Such heavy snowfall would hinder the appearance of wild beasts. Suggesting that arrangements had been made within the city, Zhao Qian pondered silently, recognizing that among the 3 families, the Lin family had risen to prominence, having secured significantly fewer mining resources than the others. With much of their income reliant on hunting beasts and magical creatures, purchasing them at low prices from impoverished hunters, and selling them at a premium in the south. Thus, the likelihood of the Lin family monopolizing this hunting task was exceedingly high, indicating that they must be harboring numerous magical creatures. Life must be stirring within the Genesis space. With this thought, Zhao Qian returned to his former residence. Nearby, there were a few hunters with whom his father often collaborated. And although their camaraderie was limited, they shared a bond. Is Uncle Li at home? Zhao Qian called out to the dilapidated house. A small boy, clad in tattered cotton clothing, emerged from the back, replying, "Zhao Qian, where have you been these past few days?" Before Zhao Qian had awakened to his past life's memories, he had been known as a kind-hearted and honest individual, enjoying a considerable reputation among the local children. The boy, however, seemed to have forgotten to respond to Zhao Qian's question. Zhao Qian continued, "Nothing much, just busy with some matters. Is your father home today?" No sooner had he spoken than a voice from within the house replied. It was indeed Uncle Li. Zhao Qian pulled the boy aside and discreetly slipped him a gold piece, quickly inquiring about the information he sought. From today onward, all residents of the impoverished districts have been prohibited from entering the streets. Yesterday was the last day Uncle Li sold wild beasts, which have now appreciated 5-fold in value. The location was outside the North Gate at Tiger Hill, where the Lin family maintains a facility for guarding these beasts, including several that have already transformed into magical creatures. Under strict surveillance from the 3 prominent families and the Lord's manor, as the day darkened, with the mountains looming and the wind and snow howling, Zhao Qian stood on the mountainside, gazing down at Tiger Hill, where dozens of wooden cages held various wild beasts. In the center stood 10 large iron cages, containing 10 larger and fiercer magical creatures. Taking advantage of the night wind, he prepared to unleash a sleeping powder. Intending to see how the Lin family would respond to this debacle with that, he quickly found a vantage point and scattered a green powder into the biting cold wind, directing it towards the encampment below. Half an hour later, Zhao Qian glanced at the sentinels slumbering at their posts, his form shifting as he released his spiritual energy, encasing his feet in a green aura that allowed him to tread lightly. Leaving no trace in the snow, he vaulted into the encampment, observing the cages in the central square. Each stood over 2 meters tall, containing wild beasts of considerable size, making Zhao Qian appear like a child gazing up at adults. A sense of foreboding washed over him. Scanning the surroundings with his spiritual sense, he detected the even breaths of those inside, revealing no immediate danger. Yet, he trusted his instincts. Danger was not posed by these individuals. Nevertheless, he thought, what if danger? Having arrived, he could not leave empty-handed. Zhao Qian gradually approached the central iron cages, glancing at the magical beasts within. All were in slumber, sprawled on the ground. Suddenly, Zhao Qian noticed a black magical wolf in one of the cages growling lowly, its sound resembling a chant, discernible only to those with formidable spiritual awareness. Enough of this, Zhao Qian thought, as he enveloped the surrounding cages with his spiritual energy, and to his delight, he realized he could indeed contain living beings. Once this was accomplished, Zhao Qian swiftly exited the encampment, finally exhaling a sigh of relief. As his feet touched the ground, he glanced around the slopes, spotting pairs of eerie violet eyes emerging from the darkness. The snow wolves had encircled the area, stealthily advancing towards the encampment. Escaping this situation would prove challenging. Retreating into the Genesis space was his only option. Inside the Genesis space, Zhao Qian observed the large black magical wolves within the cages. A first-tier magical beast would require a human cultivator of at least the 9th layer of the spiritual realm to contend with it. Capturing such a creature alive would demand the efforts of at least 3 formidable cultivators. Upon entering, the magical beasts gradually awakened, glaring at the human before them with fury. Zhao Qian smirked, seizing a gold brick and, with a resounding clang, unlocked the cage, stepping back and picking up a golden stick from the ground. Today, I shall demonstrate the art of the dog-beating stick. Provoked by Zhao Qian's taunt, the magical wolf charged at him, its gaping maw aimed for his head. Come at me, he welcomed the challenge, ready to strike. As Zhao Qian unleashed his spiritual energy from the bubbling springs in his feet, he struck first, his golden stick sweeping across the wolf's jaw, sending it crashing to the ground. Ow! The wolf howled in pain. Though it remained relatively unharmed, its iron-like skull shielded it, but the true vulnerability lay in its underbelly. Zhao Qian had no desire to kill this training partner. After a few more rounds of torment, the wolf ceased its aggression, its speed diminishing as Zhao Qian relentlessly pursued it. Eventually, it lay on the ground, gasping for breath. Zhao Qian then released the other magical beasts, engaging in a series of trials, effortlessly overpowering them in strength and speed. After defeating all 10 magical beasts, Zhao Qian found his spiritual energy nearly depleted. Chapter 12. The Goal of Earning Spirit Stones Report. My lord, urgent news. Come-in.it was now the following morning when a subordinate of the Lord's manor rushed into the chamber. Having just visited Tiger Hill to instruct his men, informing them of the Crown Prince's arrival and that the hunt was anticipated to commence that morning, they needed to prepare in advance. Yet, the scene he encountered sent chills down his spine, compelling him to report to the Lord immediately. Why, Lord? Grave news. Tiger Hill has been ambushed, likely by a pack of wolves. What? Zhao Sun. Repeat that, the Lord, who usually meditated in his chamber each morning, felt his composure shatter at these words. Kneeling before him, Zhao Sun continued, My lord, Tiger Hill was attacked by a swarm of wolves, and no one survived. All the magical beasts and wild animals have vanished without a trace. Not even a single cage remains. The Lord of the Northern Realm furrowed his brow, convinced that someone was scheming behind the scenes. Inform the 3 major families, particularly the Lin family, and let us see how they handle this predicament. Time was of the essence, and he found himself unable to extricate himself from his current obligations. Needing to attend to the Crown Prince, Zhao Sun, being the Lord's trusted confidant, quickly grasped the situation. They could only proceed step by step. Would they allow the Crown Prince to leisurely roam the city for a few days while they captured a few magical beasts? Such a notion was utterly implausible, for the Crown Prince sought enjoyment, not mere trophies on display. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince and several other princes were well prepared under the Lord's arrangements, ready to set forth at a moment's notice. Your Highness, you have chosen to hunt today, and lo and behold, the heavy snow has ceased, truly a sign of divine favor. The Lord of the Northern Realm bowed respectfully to the Crown Prince. The Lord's son was by the Crown Prince's side, firmly entrenched in his faction. Seated upon a grand armchair in the courtyard, the Crown Prince lightly tapped his fingers on the armrest, a subtle smile gracing his lips as he remained silent. Behind him stood the second prince, clad in a purple python robe, his eyes fierce and his presence commanding. He had reached the pinnacle of the 9th level in the Divine Sea realm, making him one of the foremost experts in the Northern Realm. Inwardly, he scoffed, Humph, the eldest truly knows how to court disaster. With discord among the brothers, he insists on using his authority to summon everyone to venture into the wilds. Should an unforeseen mishap occur, even Father Emperor would struggle to uncover the truth. Such thoughts were echoed among the other 7 princes, who had already made their own preparations. At that moment, a well-dressed guard approached and whispered, Your Highness, all is ready. Shall we depart? The Crown Prince slowly rose, raising his hand to signal, Let us set forth. 10 elegantly attired youths mounted their horses, following closely behind the Crown Prince, while the 7 princes donned their gear, each accompanied by 1 or 2 guards as they formed a procession. Upon exiting the city gates, the Crown Prince addressed his younger brothers, Since we are to hunt, let us split up and see who can capture the most prey. The victor shall gather 10 spirit herbs in the East Palace garden. What say you? The initially disinterested princes suddenly brightened at the prospect, realizing they had not prepared adequately before leaving the city. Very well, since our esteemed elder brother offers such a valuable reward, we shall strive to claim first place. The second prince exclaimed, eager to seize the prize for himself. The other princes showed an unusual fervor. eager to prove their prowess. "Let us then divide our efforts and reconvene here before nightfall to compare our captures," declared the crown prince, spurring his horse towards Tiger Hill. The other 7 princes likewise sought their own paths. At the city gate, a bustling crowd observed the noble princes departing, and Zhao Juqian couldn't help but chuckle coldly to himself. Is this what it means to be of royal blood? Engaging in schemes against one another, today, I suspect, we'll witness a few fatalities. Only last night, after experiencing a minor beast tide, he had intended to sneak back into the city under the cover of darkness but had encountered 3 groups of cloaked figures, each led by a formidable expert from the Transcendence realm, individuals likely exclusive to the Imperial City. The intent was unmistakable. Yet, Zhao Juqian had little interest in such affairs. His focus lay solely on acquiring a substantial amount of spirit stones to replenish the spiritual energy within the creation space. At present, the creation space could only rely on its meager instincts to absorb external spiritual energy, and to hasten its recovery, a copious supply of spirit stones was essential. The wealthiest place within the city was undoubtedly the Alchemist Association, where patrons came and went in droves. Upon re-entering the Alchemist Association, the attentive attendant quickly ushered him to meet the president, Lu Ming. Ascending to the 3rd floor, they took their respective seats. "Why, young friend, it seems your strength has deepened considerably since our last meeting," Lu Ming remarked with surprise. Zhao Juqian had concealed his cultivation level, making it difficult for others to gauge his true abilities. Lu Ming sensed the pressure emanating from Zhao Juqian's gaze and wisely refrained from assuming he was an ordinary person. "President Lu, how about we strike a deal?" Zhao Juqian proposed. Exuding confidence, Lu Ming's interest piqued. He replied, "Feel free to speak your mind. I can assist you in breaking through to the 3rd-tier alchemist," Zhao Juqian declared. He no longer wished to settle for a share of the profits. Instead, he sought a direct acquisition of spirit stones, for only with ample spirit stones could he achieve greater feats within the creation space. Lu Ming hesitated only briefly before quickly coming to terms with the proposition. After refining the spirit-gathering pill over the past few days, he had already recognized Zhao Juqian's remarkable abilities, firmly believing that Zhao Juqian's alchemical skills surpassed his own. "And how shall we conduct this transaction?" Lu Ming inquired, his expression resolute. Zhao Juqian raised 2 fingers, stating, 2,000 low-grade spirit stones, and I guarantee your promotion. 2,000 low-grade spirit stones? President Lu furrowed his brow, taken aback by the modest sum. The Alchemist Association's annual salaries exceeded 10,000, and with additional income from refining pills, 2,000 spirit stones seemed negligible. Zhao Juqian observed his expression with trepidation. He was unfamiliar with the financial capacity of those in the Northern Realm, particularly regarding spirit stones, having yet to see a single one. Lu Ming laughed heartily. "No problem. I shall prepare them for you right away." With a wave of his hand, a pile of spirit stones appeared in the room. "Young friend, please count them." Zhao Juqian nodded, quickly sweeping his consciousness over the stones before promptly storing them away. Subsequently, Lu Ming proceeded to refine a batch of spirit-gathering pills, a 3rd-tier concoction. Following Zhao Juqian's guidance, he had already swapped out the necessary materials, yet the actual success rate of the refinement lingered below 10%. Achieving a 40% success rate would qualify him as a 3rd-tier alchemist. An hour later, the refinement failed. The heat was insufficient. I rushed the process. After a brief respite, Lu Ming continued with another batch. Zhao Juqian persistently pointed out the issues, ultimately demonstrating the process himself, completing it in a mere quarter hour. Upon witnessing this, Lu Ming experienced a moment of enlightenment, and when he took another turn, he successfully refined a batch of spirit-gathering pills. "I've done it. I am now a 3rd-tier alchemist." Lu Ming's exclamation reverberated throughout the Alchemist Association, stirring awe among the patrons below. A 3rd-tier alchemist held a status far exceeding that of a sovereign. Even the Emperor of Qin would bow in deference. Once Lu Ming finished his jubilant laughter, Zhao Juqian presented a piece of paper. "Prepare 10 sets of materials for me. You can procure spirit pills here, correct?" Lu Ming accepted the paper, not yet glancing at its contents, which detailed the materials for 3rd-tier spirit-gathering pills. "Are you planning to refine them yourself, young friend?" Zhao Juqian nodded. Before long, Lu Ming had prepared 10 sets of materials for Zhao Juqian, who then returned to his own courtyard without delay. Chapter 13. A Thought Becomes a Pill. "Son, you seem busier than before," his mother observed as Zhao Juqian finished his meal and retreated to his room, unable to suppress a sigh. The two exchanged knowing glances, recognizing the mutual pride in each other's eyes. Understanding that their son had matured, as soon as Zhao Juqian entered his room, he delved into the creation space. Since he could forge weapons with a mere thought, he now aimed to attempt pill refinement with the same mental intent. However, he needed to prepare some spirit stones, as the divine envoy within the creation space had indicated that the more spirit stones infused, the greater the restoration of its capabilities. These spirit stones are somewhat insufficient. Upon entering the creation space, the divine envoy sighed. Still clad in his ethereal white garments, it was evident that the 2,000 low-grade spirit stones had already been depleted. Zhao Juqian waved dismissively. Every little bit helps. Once I grow stronger, I will have a plethora of spirit stones. Since you have nothing better to do here, why not assist me in thinking of ways to enhance our situation? Using one's intellect consumes soul energy, and you lack any elixirs for recovery. The fact that I am even conversing with you is already a courtesy, replied the divine envoy in a tone devoid of urgency. As if discussing matters unrelated to himself, Zhao Juqian chose not to engage further, retrieving 10 sets of alchemical materials. With a mere thought, the image of the spirit-gathering pill materialized in his mind, and a wondrous phenomenon unfolded. 10 luminous orbs enveloped the spirit herbs, each herb dissolving and rapidly merging, solidifying into pills. In less than 10 breaths, the orbs vanished, leaving 10 exquisite spirit-gathering pills suspended in the air. Gather! Zhao Juqian beckoned, and the 10 pills instantly appeared in his hands. They were the size of a pinky finger, smooth and rounded, adorned with intricate patterns. With a flawless success rate, all 10 were top-tier third-grade spirit-gathering pills, capable of restoring half the spiritual energy of those in the Transcendence realm. Zhao Juqian's delight was boundless. After all, market third-tier spirit-gathering pills typically restored only 30% of spiritual energy, and his superior product would fetch a handsome price. I am destined for greatness. The divine envoy mused, bewildered by this new leader, thinking to himself, his composure is rather lacking. How can he be so elated by a mere trifle? Zhao Juqian produced a jade vial to store 9 of the spirit-gathering pills, swallowing the last one and settling into a meditative posture. As the creation celestial scripture circulated, the entire space became one with Zhao Juqian. The pill dissolved upon entering his mouth, its potent essence surging through his meridians like a torrential river. Fortunately, his meridians had been tempered to great resilience. After 3 cycles of circulation, the essence was absorbed into his dantian. As Zhao Juqian operated his technique, the creation space immediately activated, absorbing external spiritual energy like a sponge. With a deep exhale, Zhao Juqian felt his strength increase further. He had ascended to the 2nd level of the Divine Sea realm, but the enhancement provided by a single third-grade pill was minuscule. At dawn, Zhao Juqian clenched his fist, sensing the fluctuations in his own strength. Simultaneously, as he ceased his cultivation, the swirling aura from the outside gradually dissipated, and the Genesis space resumed its slow absorption rate. As the master, Zhao Juqian naturally perceived the changes within the Genesis space. You rest well here. I shall step out to conduct some business. With a glance at the divine envoy, he willed himself to appear within the room. Exiting the door, he made his way directly to the Alchemist Association. Your esteemed presence graces us, but the president is currently in seclusion. How may I assist you? The attendant, upon seeing Zhao Juqian, immediately bowed in greeting. I am not here to seek him. I have come to sell elixirs, Zhao Juqian replied nonchalantly, knowing that Lu Ming was likely striving to break through to a third-grade alchemist and did not wish to disturb him. Please follow me, the attendant said, leading Zhao Juqian to the 2nd floor, stopping at the entrance of a private room. Huang Lao, are you in? Come in. A resonant voice called from within. The attendant gently pushed the door open, revealing a simply furnished room with a set of tables and chairs. An elderly man, his hair streaked with white, sat at the table with a resolute expression, white eyebrows arched, clad in a plain green robe. Poring over a bamboo scroll in his hands, a bookshelf against the wall was filled with ancient texts and bamboo slips, a powerful figure at the Transcendence realm. Just a glance was enough for Zhao Juqian to discern the elder's cultivation level. Huang Lao, this young Master Zhao wishes to sell spirit elixirs. Huang Lao set down the bamboo slip and looked up at Zhao Juqian with an indifferent expression. Oh, my young friend, what grade of spirit elixirs do you have for sale? Zhao Juqian presented a jade vial. Huang Lao uncorked the bottle, and an intense fragrance of elixir wafted out, causing even the low-tier spiritist attendant to feel invigorated. What remarkable elixirs! Is this a top-grade third-tier gathering spirit elixir you crafted? Huang Lao inquired, astonished. Zhao Juqian nodded slightly. May I ask, Huang Lao, what is the value of this exquisite elixir? Huang Lao, his face lined with wrinkles, smiled like a withered chrysanthemum. Ha ha ha, truly, heroes emerge from the youth. Typically, a qualified third-tier gathering spirit elixir crafted by the Alchemist Association sells for 100 spirit stones. While such a top-grade elixir is worth at least 300 spirit stones, it was evident that Huang Lao was attempting to negotiate a lower price. All medicines have their side effects. Consuming ordinary elixirs excessively can adversely affect one's body, particularly during breakthroughs, potentially leading to hidden ailments that require even more precious elixirs for healing. Otherwise, it may hinder one's advancement point. One could say top-grade elixirs are priceless. Zhao Juqian countered, moreover, this gathering spirit elixir is among the most sought after and commonly used. Huang Lao, your price is rather low. Top-grade elixirs are not so simply valued. This elixir can restore half of the spiritual energy for someone at the Transcendence realm. If you are unwilling to engage in this trade, I can seek out Lingbage. They accept all sorts of goods, and their elixir business is not inferior to yours. Noticing Huang Lao's silence, Zhao Juqian continued, having thoroughly explored the city and gained an understanding of the various factions. Upon hearing this, Huang Lao promptly abandoned his intention to undercut in a protracted battle, when one's spiritual energy is nearly depleted. Consuming such a top-grade elixir is an essential remedy. Huang Lao chuckled, very well. I shall offer 500 low-tier spirit stones for each elixir, and that is the best I can do. Zhao Juqian calculated quietly. The materials cost 20 low-tier spirit stones, and the spiritual energy consumed during the refining process from the Genesis space should amount to 100 low-tier spirit stones per elixir. This meant his total cost was 120, yielding a profit of 380 low-tier spirit stones. It was indeed a lucrative venture. All right, I shall exchange all 9 elixirs for materials. Huang Lao, being astute at his age, quickly calculated that the price in Beijing would not rise significantly, and transporting them to the imperial capital would surely fetch a good price. Thus he smiled, young friend, you are truly not an ordinary individual. Allow me to provide a portion of the deposit. How about selling us these 200 elixirs? Certainly, a 10% deposit will suffice. Zhao Juqian was in urgent need of spirit stones, and securing a deposit of 10,000 low-tier spirit stones would surely make a splash within the Genesis space. However, he found Huang Lao's sudden eagerness rather peculiar. Huang Lao, might I inquire if there are any restrictions upon joining your Alchemist Association? Purchasing materials from us would grant you an exclusive discount of 20%, and our internal members would receive priority supplies. The fox's tail has been revealed. Zhao Juqian considered his alchemical prowess, realizing he would undoubtedly require a substantial supply of materials for mass refining in the future. Having a stable supplier was indeed essential. What are the conditions for joining? At this moment, the attendant had already gathered the materials and quietly entered the room, placing a large bundle on the ground. Huang Lao stroked his white beard, smiling. Rest assured, young friend, we alchemists uphold the noblest of professions. Who could impose restrictions upon us? However, since we are both esteemed individuals, we should refrain from mingling with the lowly merchants of Lingbage. Dante, you agree? This condition effectively monopolized the alchemist within the association, yet it was not without merit. Very well, I consent. Subsequently, Huang Lao agreed to prepare an identity token for him next time. Zhao Juqian accepted the materials and returned home. Chapter 14. The clash of dragons and tigers. 1,000 miles of ice lay frozen beneath a snowfall that spanned the horizon. A group of finely dressed horsemen galloped northward. At the forefront was none other than the crown prince of the Great Qin, draped in a luxurious fur coat that billowed in the wind. Your Highness, I sense something amiss with the other princes. Have you not noticed? One of the youths behind him remarked. The crown prince surveyed his surroundings intently. Ah, Lin Feng, I was right about you. I had already sensed this matter. Before our departure, I had someone keep watch over the movements of my brother's subordinates at the Transcendence realm, and indeed, they have all arrived here ahead of time. Lin Feng was not surprised. The crown prince's depth of perception was beyond what ordinary people could fathom, thus he chose to remain silent. Your Highness, we have been out for quite some time, and the prey has yet to appear. Shall we spread out a bit? As long as we remain within each other's line of sight? It should be safe, suggested a guard. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Just as he had warned of danger, someone proposed to scatter, which felt like a slap in the face. However, recognizing that the speaker was the captain of the guard, Su Tianan, he relented. Very well, let us spread out a bit. Signal if you spot any prey. The Crown Prince paid little heed, nodding in agreement with Su Tianan's plan. The group divided into two teams, ascending the ridges on either side, with only Su Tianan following closely behind the Crown Prince. Su Tianan appeared nonchalant, seemingly unfazed by the other princes, and began discussing trivial matters with the Crown Prince. Your Highness, I heard an intriguing tale yesterday. The City Lord's mansion was actually robbed a few nights ago. It seems the Lin family also lost something quite significant that evening. The City Lord's mansion only seems to have lost some gold and silver treasures. Yet the thief managed to come and go freely, indicating they must be quite skilled. The Crown Prince chuckled. I wonder if it was those few at the palace at the Transcendence Realm causing trouble here. However, the City Lord's mansion has an old fellow at the Transcendence Realm, so it's unlikely they would be so easily outwitted. Perhaps there is indeed a greater expert involved. Your Highness? Among the princes, which of them do you suspect will act here? I am eager to meet them, Su Tianan said, a cruel expression on his face. The princes wished to eliminate the Crown Prince. Yet the Crown Prince himself harbored intentions to deal with them as well. The Crown Prince smirked malevolently. A bunch of useless fools. They wouldn't dare show their faces here. Suddenly, a series of black figures sprang forth from the snow ahead. 6 in total, attacking without uttering a word, weapons drawn. Some charged upward, others downward. All 6 were at the initial stage of the Transcendence Realm, with the strongest among them having reached the 3rd layer of the Transcendence Realm, working in perfect harmony to seal off all escape routes for the Crown Prince. With a clang, Su Tianan's feet struck the ground, drawing his long sword with a surge of power, leaping over the Crown Prince to confront the 6 attackers. Transcendence 6, the leader among the black-clad figures, was taken aback, but having drawn their swords, there was no turning back. It was a fight to the death. A red flame engulfed the blade as it swung down towards Su Tianan's head. You recording death, Su Tianan sneered, his form flickering like a wraith, vanishing from the sight of the 6, only to reappear as his long sword pierced through the throat of the last assailant. Did anyone catch his movements? One of the black-clad figures felt a chill run down his spine, realizing the intel had been false. They had expected both opponents to be at the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm. Yet upon engaging, one had already been slain. How were they to continue fighting? Fear not, we still have the strength to battle. The fiery-bladed black-clad figure roared, knowing that fleeing would lead to certain death, while fighting still offered a glimmer of hope. With a hand brushing the blade, they focused their essence and blood into the weapon, merging man and blade as one. The other 4 companions also unleashed their signature skills. Preparing for a desperate showdown, the Crown Prince did not intervene. He should only be at the 9th level of the Divine Sea realm, although he could potentially be stronger, a result they most dreaded. Su Tianan felt a surge of astonishment within. His strike indeed had the potential to kill, aimed at intimidating a few of them, but instead, they grew bolder with each confrontation. Despite being a notch above them in cultivation, this life-and-death struggle found them resolute and unwavering, compelling Su Tianan to remain vigilant as he fought alongside them with utmost focus. On the ridge, 2 teams of individuals, upon hearing the sounds of battle, exchanged glances of concern and hurried down the mountain, eyeing the valley ahead, atop a towering peak. 4 princes stood shoulder to shoulder, gazing intently at the scene below, their brows furrowed in contemplation. Second brother. It appears we have indeed underestimated the capabilities of our elder brother, remarked the 3rd prince, his expression grave. The 2nd prince, hands clasped behind his back, scrutinized the 5 figures entangled in combat on the snow-covered ground. Eyes glinting with ruthless intent. Our elder brother is undoubtedly aware that I could intervene. Returning to the imperial capital will not yield us any favorable outcomes, hence we must take action. Either we perish, or it is our elder brother who meets his demise. The 5th prince voiced his discontent. Second brother, our elder brother lacks evidence implicating us. Does he dare to strike against us? The 4th prince, having listened to his brother's exchanges, felt a mixture of disdain and satisfaction, though his expression quickly masked itself with a cold smirk. Second brother, we certainly cannot overpower him. That Su Tianan possesses astonishing combat prowess. However, he is arrogant and dismissive, unable to be fully restrained even by our elder brother, who must constantly promise him certain benefits to motivate him. The second prince shook his head. Fourth brother, we may not be his match. To kill him would be exceedingly difficult. The other princes looked at the typically astute fourth prince with confusion. With a hint of pride and satisfaction, the fourth prince smiled. Brothers, I have gathered intel yesterday that the president of the Alchemist Association here has ascended to the ranks of a third-rank alchemist. The items he concocts can pose a threat to those at the Profound Realm. We could enlist his services to produce certain concoctions. The princes suddenly grasped the implications, realizing that while employing poison against ordinary individuals was straightforward, utilizing it against cultivators, particularly those of the Profound Realm, was no less challenging than engaging him directly. They contemplated that this might be a feasible strategy, especially given the enigmatic nature of poisons and elixirs, which they could not fully comprehend. Perhaps the alchemist possessed unique methods. After a moment of silence, they resumed watching the distant battle until several of their subordinates were slain and fell to the ground. Prompting them to turn back towards the city as for hunting, they deemed it futile. After wandering for so long, they had encountered no worthy prey, and it seemed the crown prince had also yielded little success. Given their considerable status, the princes were not overly concerned about the crown prince's 10 spirit herbs. Their immediate priority was to return to the city and procure poison from the Alchemist Association. Chapter 15. Money can solve problems within the Alchemist Association. Zhao Juqian and Lu Ming took their seats, having completed the transaction of 200 top-tier gathering spirit pills. President Lu, how long until the next batch of materials arrives? Zhao Juqian inquired eagerly after securing 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. He was keen to secure more business, yet the high-quality pills were beyond the capacity of such a small place as North Border City, necessitating their distribution to the imperial capital or even to alchemist associations in other nations. This presented a dilemma, as the time required to earn spirit stones would be extended, and the extraordinary nature of his products might attract unwanted attention. I'm afraid it will take 10 days for delivery. Today's 300 spirit herbs are already the last of our stock, Lu Ming replied, wishing to keep such a talent close without proposing that Zhao Juqian relocate to the imperial capital. At that moment, a gentle knock echoed from outside the door. President, several princes request an urgent audience. Lu Ming was taken aback. The Alchemist Association refrained from engaging in worldly disputes, solely focusing on the business of elixirs and scouting talents. He had already heard of the prince's presence in North Border City. Frowning, he instructed, bring them in. Zhao Juqian, hearing this command, showed no intent to withdraw. The door creaked open, and the 4 princes filed in sequentially. Esteemed princes, this is our president, Zhao Juqian introduced. The second prince and others immediately bowed respectfully. We pay our respects to President Lu. In the presence of a third-rank alchemist, the princes exhibited utmost reverence. Even the reigning emperor stood on equal footing with such a figure. Liu Ming raised his hands in a placating gesture, smiling. We are all practitioners. There is no need for excessive formalities among us. He observed them with a smile, already surmising their purpose. President Lu, we have matters to discuss privately, the second prince stated, glancing at Zhao Juqian, clearly indicating a desire to have the unfamiliar individual excused. Lu Ming chuckled, no need for concern. Young Master Zhao is an old friend of mine and has no ties to your royal family. Moreover, his capabilities are not inferior to mine. If you seek to concoct pills, having him present may yield beneficial suggestions. The second prince felt a jolt of surprise, realizing that such a young individual could garner the recognition of a third-rank alchemist. He feared his earlier actions might have left a poor impression on this esteemed figure. President Lu, I seek a poison, colorless, odorless, lethal without a trace. Name your price. The third prince, lacking patience, swiftly articulated their intent as the second prince remained silent. Liu Ming's brow furrowed slightly. He had not extensively experimented with poisons during his alchemical pursuits, and such a request would interfere with the realm of secular politics. While they might seek pills to enhance their strength, attempting to poison the crown prince clearly contradicted the association's principles. I am afraid I cannot provide what you seek. The Alchemist Association does not involve itself in worldly matters, as you should well know, he responded, shaking his head. The princes immediately grew anxious. This was their final opportunity. And upon returning, they risked being dispatched to the frontier, losing any chance at vying for the throne. The second prince, undeterred, quickly said, President Lu, this matter will remain confidential among us brothers. Liu Ming inwardly scoffed. Their brazen entrance and subsequent plot to poison the crown prince would undoubtedly trace back to him if executed. Suppressing his ire, he gestured, "I must ask you to leave. I cannot concoct the poison you require." The second prince felt a pang of helplessness at that moment. The third prince noticed Zhao Juqian, who was leisurely sipping tea, and recalled the president's earlier remarks. He suddenly inquired, "Young master, did I hear correctly that you are also an alchemist?" The other princes turned their attention towards him, intrigued. Such youth. Could he have been refining pills since birth, and yet reached third rank? Zhao Juqian nodded, smiling, "Gentlemen, I care not for your intentions with the poison. As long as you can provide sufficient spirit stones and materials, I can certainly concoct the poison you desire." Initially, the princes had merely refrained from dismissing such a young man out of respect for Liu Ming. However, they did not genuinely trust his claims of assistance. "Is that true?" The second prince snapped back to attention. Liu Ming observed with curiosity. This prodigious alchemist seemed overly motivated by wealth. Was there an unspoken burden? Or was it a task assigned by his master? As his thoughts raced, he grasped the likely truth. If young Master Zhao were to act, he could undoubtedly produce the potions they sought, capable of delivering even the profoundest cultivator to their doom. Liu Ming hastily offered Zhao Juqian his formal endorsement. With this endorsement, Zhao Juqian's standing in the eyes of the princes soared to an equal level with theirs. The princes exchanged glances, with the second prince taking the lead. "What is the cost for you to undertake this task?" Zhao Juqian raised 5 fingers, having already resolved to capitalize on this opportunity, intending to fleece these 4 fat sheep. 50,000 low-grade spirit stones for participating in the conspiracy to assassinate the crown prince was a rather reasonable price. As expected, the second prince and his companions merely exchanged looks before reaching a consensus. "Spirit stones are not an issue. As long as we achieve our objective, we can certainly afford this expense," the second prince replied decisively, clearly indicating the gravity of their situation. Subsequently, the second prince produced 20,000 spirit stones, while the other 3 princes each contributed 10,000, forming a small mountain of spirit stones on the floor. Zhao Juqian glanced at the pile, collected the stones, and stated, "Very well. Return here tomorrow morning for your elixirs." As he spoke, he drafted a list and procured some medicinal herbs from the Alchemist Association before returning home. Another 150,000 spirit stones had been credited to his account, and Zhao Juqian was eager to invest the spirit stones into repairing the Genesis space. After depleting the previous 100,000 spirit stones, he had received information about a technique to refine pills with a mere thought, which was extraordinary, as it exponentially increased his gains. Furthermore, the spiritual energy within the space had become even more profound. With a wave of his hand, 150,000 lower-grade spirit stones appeared on the ground, and within just 3 breaths, they transformed into lifeless ash devoid of spiritual essence. A slight sensation of the spiritual energy in the air made the exquisite and comfortable feeling even more pronounced. "This consumption is rather astonishing. With so many spirit stones, I could utilize them for several years," Zhao Juqian couldn't help but exclaim. Having grown accustomed to a lack of wealth over the years, he was well aware of the staggering quantity of these spirit stones. However, in order to expedite the repair of the Genesis space, he could not afford to be overly concerned. After completing these tasks, Zhao Juqian promptly took out the materials for the deadly soul-biting pill, the steps of the refining process surfacing in his mind. Soon, the materials before him were enveloped in red spiritual energy, and in an instant, they melted, purified, and transformed into pills, all in one seamless motion. To his astonishment, a third-grade pill could indeed be refined with a mere thought. Zhao Juqian gasped in awe, and after calming his emotions, he resolved not to leave the Genesis space, for his current cultivation of the second level of the divine sea realm was still too weak in this world to venture into broader territories. He needed a formidable strength as backing. Chapter 16. An unexpected turn the following morning, Zhao Juqian stepped out of his room to find his parents already washed and seated at the stone table in the courtyard. Engaged in conversation, "I went grocery shopping this morning and heard that many people who went out to reclaim traps haven't returned. I wonder what has happened," his mother said with a hint of apprehension. Behind her, Zhao Baizhu seemed to have heard something as well, echoing, "I heard that Brother Wang next door hasn't come to practice with me this morning. I wonder if he went out today." Alas, upon hearing this, Zhao Juqian couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. What could possibly be the matter? Perhaps they stumbled upon some treasure and are caught up in a scramble for it. Or maybe they encountered some peculiar creature. Father, mother, I shall take my leave. As soon as he spoke, Zhao Juqian vanished from the doorway. Initially, he paid little heed, but as he encountered more passers-by discussing the same topic, he began to sense something amiss. At the Alchemist Association, Brother Zhao, please come in. With a creak, Zhao Juqian pushed open the door to find Lu Ming and 4 princes seated, their eyes brimming with anticipation. The second prince was the first to speak. Little brother, have you succeeded in refining the pills? Zhao Juqian nodded, producing 2 jade vials, one with a green cork and the other with a black cork. The black vial contained poison, the deadly soul-biting pill, which was colorless and odorless. Merely having it on one's person would cause anyone within a 10-meter radius to gradually lose their spiritual power, ultimately leading to their meridians being severed, and a month later, their souls would be extinguished. Such a rare poison was indeed remarkable among third-grade pills. Hearing this, the expressions of the others grew tense, as if sitting on pins and needles, fearful that Zhao Juqian might uncork the vial. Zhao Juqian continued, the green vial contains 4 antidotes. Consuming just one will grant immunity for 10 days. With that, he handed both vials to the second prince. The other 3 princes visibly relaxed. The third prince quickly interjected. Second brother, aside from us, there are still 2 other younger brothers. Although they appear disinterested in vying for the throne, they are secretly gathering forces. Though the third prince was impulsive, he was also astute, quickly revealing another concern. Yet the main issue remained unspoken. With the crown prince deceased, who would ascend the throne? They all understood, yet chose to remain silent. Zhao Juqian observed their thoughts and smiled indifferently. Having no interest in the mundane power struggles, only desiring to strengthen himself, he then turned to leave, saying, Gentlemen, I have provided you with the items. I will be heading to the imperial capital, where I can refine other pills for you at a fair price. With a professional smile, he prepared to return to his cultivation. Suddenly, a series of urgent knocks echoed at the door. Shortly thereafter, a voice called out, President, something grave has occurred. No one has entered the city today, and those who left have not returned. The entire city is in a state of panic. What? Instantly, disbelief washed over everyone, but upon noticing that the messenger was at the 9th level of the Divine Sea realm, they began to believe. Has anyone gone to investigate the situation? Lu Ming leapt up from his chair. The middle-aged man reporting the news quickly explained, a thick fog has suddenly appeared outside the city, and those who entered have not returned, as if they have entered another world. Occasionally, glimpses of strange creatures can be seen. Zhao Juqian observed the trembling spirit of the newcomer, clearly spooked, and his demeanor suggested he was not lying. President Lu Ming furrowed his brow in concern. The second prince immediately said, President Lu, little brother, we must take our leave. With that, they departed, leaving only Zhao Juqian and 2 others behind. Lu Ming gestured to his subordinate, indicating for him to continue the investigation, then turned to Zhao Juqian, saying, Young Master Zhao, let us wait here for news. This situation is exceedingly peculiar. As alchemists, it is best we do not act recklessly. Zhao Juqian mentioned the matter of the herbs and, citing the need to continue his cultivation, took his leave from the Alchemist Association. On the city wall, Zhao Juqian gazed towards the encroaching white mist in the distance. His spirit unable to penetrate far. Within 10 meters of the mist was his limit. Among the crowd, the crown prince was encircled, clearly expected to make a decision regarding the unfolding events. The crown prince decreed that any brave souls willing to enter the mist would be rewarded with 10 gathering chi pills, and those who emerged, regardless of whether they uncovered the truth behind the mist, would receive a concentrating spirit pill. The mention of the concentrating spirit pill stirred a wave of excitement. What? The prince's reward is exceedingly generous. I wish to give it a try. The crowd's gazes began to heat up. Su Tianan, standing beside the prince, surveyed the surroundings, his demeanor full of pride, but mid-sentence, he noticed Zhao Juqian. The aura he exuded compelled Su Tianan to take him seriously. He is at the 6th level of the Divine Sea realm. I am at the 6th level of the Profound Transcendence realm, a whole major realm higher than him. Why should I feel intimidated by this person? Su Tianan thought, astonished, and hurriedly began conversing with the crown prince. Your Highness, that person seems rather peculiar. The crown prince had evidently already taken note of this, yet seeing the other S level, He sensed no hostility and preferred to avoid unnecessary conflict. He had seen too many powerful individuals to easily provoke someone unknown. Mind your own affairs and do not provoke him. Let us focus on the matter at hand. That moment, Su Tianan glanced towards several other princes. Your Highness, could it be one of the princes? The crown prince immediately dismissed the notion, saying, impossible. They lack the capability, and besides, I noticed that they too seemed taken aback by this extraordinary situation, just as they were in a state of confusion. 7 individuals at the 9th level of the Qi refining realm approached. Leading them was a white-haired elder, vibrant and spirited, a testament to his indomitable will, though fate had dealt him a cruel hand. No amount of effort could help him break through his current realm. Your Highness, although I am advanced in age, I have attained the 9th level of the Qi refining realm and wish to lead my brothers into the mist to explore. The few middle-aged men behind him shared his resolve. The crown prince smiled. You are commendable. He offered a simple compliment to the elder before nodding to Su Tianan, signaling him to distribute the gathering Qi pills. Afterward, the elder, accompanied by his 6 companions, stepped out of the city gates under the watchful eyes of the crowd, entering the mist. Look, they have all entered. Some lamented, alas, old Wang's lifespan is nearing its end. Yet he drags 6 middle-aged men to their deaths. How selfish! The allure of a concentrating spirit pill was irresistible, but only they were reckless enough to risk their lives. Some were astonished, others admired their courage. Yet the majority mocked their ignorance and greed. Chapter 17. The eerie mist. As the 7 entered the mist, those on the city wall began a prolonged wait. From morning until night, lanterns now adorned the city wall. While the white mist lingered by the moat, perplexingly, the moat had frozen solid, a foot thick with ice, rendering it incapable of affecting the mist. The crown prince sat in his chair, while the city lord paced behind him, clearly growing anxious. Has anyone returned from other directions? The crown prince suddenly inquired. It turned out that no one dared to venture out, although the city lord had dispatched over 300 individuals from the impoverished areas. The city lord sighed. Your Highness, no one has returned. Should we send some cultivators out? These commoners are far too weak. Should danger arise, they have no chance of survival. The 7 princes behind him appeared oblivious, each one meditating quietly. The crown prince, unfazed, nodded. It seems we have no choice. Tonight at midnight, the 3 major families and the city lord's residence shall each dispatch a 20-person team, with captains no weaker than the Divine Sea realm. The patriarchs of the 3 major families furrowed their brows. The realm of Divine Sea is the backbone of the family, a pinnacle expert within the city. However, venturing into the white mist may spell disaster. Yes. Nonetheless, the 4 of them simultaneously complied with the prince's command. Zhao Juqian sat cross-legged atop the city wall, feeling the gradually thickening spiritual energy around him, and his doubts deepened. Despite having seen much in his past life, the vastness of this world still held many unknowns. It seemed this was a calamity aimed at the entire city. They were merely sent to investigate, as they were far more anxious than he was. With this thought, Zhao Juqian leapt down from the city wall. The 2nd prince and his companions were well aware of Zhao Juqian's formidable nature, and thus, they dared not provoke him lightly. However, another small group, lacking the prince's insight, immediately began to plot. 3 young men donned in black with golden embroidery narrowed their eyes, emitting a sense of danger. Noticing Zhao Juqian's prowess, they quickly devised a plan. Eldest brother. 11th brother. This man regards us princes with utmost disdain. I perceive his cultivation is quite formidable. Should we not capture his family and threaten him to lead us into the mist? This fog seems quite sinister. We must ascertain the situation and prepare accordingly. The 13th prince's eyes glinted with malice as he gazed at Zhao Juqian's self-assured demeanor, wishing to torment him in the most brutal manner possible. The 2 other princes clearly shared his sentiments, and they quickly reached a consensus. The trio, accompanied by 6 guards, trailed Zhao Juqian from a distance. The streets were sparsely populated, with only a few practitioners walking in groups, possessing some level of strength. Yet, most common folk had long since retreated indoors with their families. The darkened streets were illuminated only by faint glimmers of light, and the trio, already at the Divine Sea realm, could effortlessly track a single individual in such an environment. He has entered. Go! A hushed command resounded in the darkness, and 9 shadows leaped over the walls, landing steadily within the courtyard. What cursed place is this? It reeks, the 13th prince cursed. Before he could fully comprehend his surroundings, a chilling sense of danger enveloped him, sending shivers down his spine. Death. A voice that seemed to echo from the depths of hell erupted in their minds. And before they could react, the 13th prince's head was severed from his body with a sickening thud, the headless corpse crashing to the ground. Damn it, you ambushed us. One of the guards growled in a low voice. The two princes, instead of being startled, wore cruel smiles upon their faces. Zhao Juqian, having delivered a lethal blow, retreated, sheathing his sword and gently brushing off non-existent dust from his hands. Noble gentleman, what brings you to my humble abode? The two princes exchanged glances, their expressions revealing a shared intent. The mastermind had already perished, and their only desire was to kill, with revenge being a mere afterthought. It's the 7th level of the Divine Sea Realm. You once held some value, but now you shall meet your end. Upon finishing their words, they drew their weapons, a long knife and a spear, gleaming ominously in the night. The 6 guards, all at the early stage of the profound realm, surrounded Zhao Juqian yet held back from striking. The two princes, both at the pinnacle of the 9th level of the Divine Sea Realm, deemed it exceedingly simple to deal with a rural bumpkin at the 7th level. The 10th prince launched a flame-enshrouded spear, its force akin to a dragon emerging from the sea, while the 11th prince mirrored his attack with a flaming long knife, effectively sealing Zhao Juqian's escape routes. Zhao Juqian regarded their posturing with calm assurance, his gaze akin to that of a spectator observing the dead, and softly declared, "The time has come." Puff puff, the once formidable duo suddenly collapsed, blood erupting from their 7 orifices. Their eyes bulged in terror, blood weeping from them. Not good, the air is poisoned. Quickly, save the princes. But it was already too late. The 6 guards had only just realized that, even in the Great Qin Empire, the use of poison was exceedingly rare, especially one potent enough to harm those at the Divine Sea Realm. The poison capable of affecting the profound realm was as precious as the elixirs for cleansing the marrow and unblocking the meridians. Zhao Juqian stood amidst the chaos, his expression serene, as if this matter had no connection to him at all. There is no need for further rescue. Your own survival is in jeopardy. Yes, they circulate their spiritual energy. The poison will spread throughout their bodies. You have merely 3 breaths before you succumb to a painful demise. With each fleeting moment, some began to spew blood, tears of blood streaming from their eyes. Zhao Juqian waved his hand, retrieving the storage rings of the 3 princes, which contained a plethora of medicinal herbs and spiritual treasures, along with over 300 medium-grade spiritual stones. The storage bags of the other 6 bore far less, containing only a few thousand low-grade spiritual stones. After stowing away 9 corpses into his storage bag, he prepared to return home to cultivate. His parents were in the backyard, and the disturbance had not yet reached them. Otherwise, they could find themselves ensnared in the poison. Fortunately, the poison would only persist for the duration of an incense stick before losing its efficacy. At that moment, a brilliant signal illuminated the distant sky, casting a white light that brightened the entire city. It seemed the situation had progressed. Zhao Juqian immediately thought to place his parents into the Genesis space, but he swiftly dismissed the idea. As ordinary mortals unversed in cultivation, exposure to such causality could prove unbearable for them. It was best to let them remain as ordinary people here. This was also the first time Zhao Juqian felt the urge to protect his parents and safeguard this city. He approached his parents' door and called out, "Father, Mother, some events have transpired outside. Please remain indoors and do not venture out. I must go out for a while." After waiting for a moment without receiving a response, he could hear them sigh softly from within. Without looking back, he sprinted towards the city gate. Chapter 18. Entering the Array North border city before Zhao Juqian reached the city gate, he caught sight of flames rising in the distance, the surging spiritual energy running rampant, indicating that a battle had already erupted. How could this be? Although the prince appeared to be at the pinnacle of the 9th level of the Divine Sea Realm, Zhao Juqian was aware that his true cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of the profound realm. Such a figure, even within the entire Great Qin, was a force to be reckoned with. How could anyone match him in combat? Zhao Juqian did not rush forward. Instead, he concealed his presence and stealthily approached. From a distance, he sensed an overwhelmingly repugnant aura. As he drew closer, he saw a group of black-clad figures adorned with black hats storming into the city walls. ruthlessly slaughtering those within. Two powerful forces were particularly evident. The prince and an old man in black clothing. The prince stood atop the city wall, his golden python robe billowing in the wind, and his sword glinted ominously. Opposite him stood a stooped old man, shrouded in black energy, whose aura alone deterred anyone from approaching within 10 meters. Ha ha ha, I never expected to find such a genius in a place like this. Have you reconsidered my earlier proposal? The old man's voice rasped like nails scraping against steel. The prince cast a sidelong glance, his expression dripping with disdain. Join your vile organization? What face would the imperial family of the Great Qin have left? How could I stand before the people of the world? Moreover, you wretched rats are unworthy of my submission. As he spoke, he drew his sword and charged, the fierce sword light piercing directly toward the old man's brow. Furious, the old man's hair stood on end as he roared. You refuse a toast and demand a penalty. With his shout, the black energy around him coalesced into a giant serpent, lunging toward the prince. The battle between the two was on the verge of erupting, yet the outcome was far from certain. Zhao Juqian watched the old man's spiritual energy take form, astonished. The ability to condense spiritual energy at the profound realm was quite peculiar, as it was typically a feat reserved for the Xinmen realm. Even the pinnacle of the profound realm could not achieve it. Zhao Juqian activated his divine sense and quickly discerned the underlying secret. A mysterious vortex of spiritual energy swirled above the old man's head, drawing in the abundant spiritual energy surrounding him, causing his aura to teeter on the brink of breaking through to the Xinmen realm. However, breaking into the Xinmen realm required not only a reserve of spiritual energy, but also the correct method to forge the Xinmen. Otherwise, all that energy would be in vain. Thus, the old man's condensed giant serpent was merely a fade, one that the prince could easily dismantle. If this continued, the prince might not be able to hold out for long. He could only venture into the white mist to investigate. Unraveling this mist was the key. Clearly, this was likely some form of array. Without expending much effort, he burst forth from the city. The guards at the entrance were preoccupied, and the black-clad figures were entirely unprepared. Who would dare to enter the white mist? As he stepped into the mist, his divine sense was immediately restricted to a mere 10 meters around him. Beyond that, he could sense nothing, his vision limited to a single meter, in the pitch-black night. Navigating this array required discerning with divine sense. This appeared to be a type of illusion array designed to trap individuals within it. After only a brief exploration, he managed to identify the core of the array. However, as he entered the array, the individuals within became aware of his presence. The black-clad figures exchanged glances and swiftly encircled him. Quickly, he has accelerated his pace and is headed straight for the array's foundation. Look at his speed. He is completely unimpeded by the array. The leading black-clad figure was both furious and alarmed. Realizing that this newcomer was not to be underestimated, however, figures from other directions soon took notice of Zhao Juqian and quickly intercepted him. Silently, iron chains breached the white mist, promptly sealing Zhao Juqian's position. With merely a fleeting encounter, Zhao Juqian found himself ensnared. Immediately, several long blades lunged towards him with remarkable speed. Empty? The cloaked figures gasped in astonishment. The man had vanished into thin air. Heightened vigilance ensued. A person had inexplicably disappeared before their eyes, leaving only one plausible explanation. The enemy had concealed their true prowess and was, in reality, far superior. The group, well-trained, swiftly reformed their ranks, their backs pressed together as they remained alert to the slightest rustle in their surroundings. At that moment, a dagger silently materialized at the back of one of the black-clad men. Swift and decisive, the figure let out a chilling scream before succumbing to silence. As the comrades turned, they were met with the sight of a stranger, seemingly a young man of fragile stature, who was toying with a dagger and smiling at the seven of them. The strongest among them was at the 6th level of the Divine Sea realm, while 2 others were at the 3rd level. Excluding the one now lying on the ground, the remainder were mere pawns at the spiritualist level. Observing Zhao Juqian's confident demeanor, the 7 dared not make a rash move. Yet, unbeknownst to them, an odorless, tasteless gas began to permeate the air. This is bad. It's toxic. Ultimately, those of lower cultivation soon succumb to the poison, their insides twisted as if by a knife. Let us fight back. However, They were merely granted a brief moment to utter those words before collapsing. Zhao Juqian would not afford them the chance for retaliation. After dispatching a few, he promptly approached the core of the formation, where 49 array flags were arranged according to a specific pattern, at the center of which lay a massive red crystal ball, shrouded in black mist. Unable to resist, Zhao Juqian extended his consciousness within, only to be inundated by a powerful wave of resentment that surged into his mind. Terrifying, vengeful thoughts flooded in like a tide. Why did you kill my child? Why I bear no grudge against you? Why must you slay me? Let us perish together. Countless whispers and curses echoed within Zhao Juqian's mind. Fortunately, the strength of his imperial soul prevented him from losing himself completely. Quickly, bring this object in. At that moment, the messenger from the creation space, who had been idly observing, spoke up, urgency evident in his tone. Zhao Juqian focused his thoughts, transporting the red crystal into the creation space. Hey, is this thing for me to handle? Before Zhao Juqian could fully comprehend, the divine messenger had already positioned himself beside the crystal ball, speaking excitedly. Zhao Juqian had been feeding the creation space with tens of thousands of spirit stones. Yet the messenger displayed no sign of gratitude. Although Zhao Juqian had accepted his identity as the master of this creation space, he felt a twinge of discontent as the space's steward continually disregarded him. However, he had yet to find any leverage to chastise this arrogant divine messenger. I can offer you assistance, and in the future, I may even help you acquire some soul-related treasures. However, I am also the master of the creation space. Can you refrain from addressing me in such a manner? Sigh, even if you don't call me master, I have a name too. Fine. To his surprise, the haughty divine messenger agreed without hesitation. Excellent, let us proceed step by step. It seems the first phase has been successful. Chapter 19. Blood demon sect at the city gate. The old man in the black robe suddenly froze, a sense of dread coursing through him. This is bad. The formation has been breached. Sensing the surrounding spiritual energy diminishing, the old man steeled himself, conjuring a dark red skull above his head. With a forceful push of his hands, the skull surged toward the prince. At this moment, the prince was already in disarray, his spiritual energy nearly depleted. The opponent's techniques and experience far surpassed his own. Had it not been for the prince's exceptional talent, he would have perished long ago. The old man's relentless flow of spiritual energy could not be halted. Unbeknownst to the prince, the old man was mobilizing. As the enormous shadow of the skull approached, the prince gritted his teeth and swallowed another gathering spirit pill. Bellowing, Su Tianan, hold them off. Su Tianan was taken aback. His adversary was formidable, and even he required the assistance of several others to contend with them. Now, the prince commanded him to take on the brunt of the assault. Was this a death sentence? With no time for hesitation, Su Tianan abandoned his opponent, channeling the last remnants of his escaping spiritual energy toward the skull. Your Highness, take care, bang. No sooner had the words left his mouth than Su Tianan's body shattered midair. In this critical moment, the prince had no time to spare. He swiftly darted toward the city gate, showing no signs of stopping, leaping several times before vanishing into the night. This is dire. The prince has abandoned us. Someone shouted, though most were focused on the prince and the old man, the true keys to the outcome of this battle. The moment the prince fled, despair enveloped everyone. Nonsense. The prince escaping is the correct choice. If we die here, our sins will be heavy, the city lord retorted. However, his words were swiftly countered by members of the three prominent families. The fiery Lin patriarch, Lin Zhengnan, scolded, Tang Zheng, you fool. We are all cultivators. What nonsense about heavy sins? Damn that prince for fleeing in battle. Let us scatter and escape. Lin Zhengnan's words were persuasive, and immediately the morale of the forces crumbled, leaving them devoid of fighting spirit. You fend for yourselves. We may never meet again. Life and death are fated. Wealth and honor lie in the heavens. Take care, everyone. The Fong and Yu families, not foolishly loyal, exchanged a few pleasantries before hastily gathering their remaining kin and rushing into the city. The three prominent families and the city lord's mansion were strongholds filled with powerful cultivators. Although they had seen many black-clad figures infiltrate, they felt no undue concern. While the black-clad men were strong, they believed they could stall them for a while. Amidst this chaos, a shadow darted into the city. Zhao Juqian had returned. After readjusting his state, he hurried home, having surmised the general purpose of these individuals. He needed to depart the city swiftly, capture that lad. He came from outside. The black-robed elder, having regained his composure, immediately recognized Zhao Juqian as an anomaly. He likely knew of the events unfolding outside. Who dares to disrupt the blood demon sect's plans must face a fate worse than death, he resolved fiercely. Closest to the elder was a middle-aged man in a black robe, his dark hat lost during the skirmish. Revealing a weathered face marked by scars, a sinister gash prominently displayed, indicating a life of hardship. The scarred man, upon spotting Zhao Juqian, felt a surge of delight. Ha! At the 7th level of the Divine Sea Realm, you re practically an ant in the eyes of a Transcendence Realm expert. This achievement is mine. With a grin, he soared down like an eagle, diving toward Zhao Juqian. Noticing the unsuspecting boy below, his smile widened. With barely 3 meters to go, victory was within reach as he shouted, "Boy, surrender. I have questions for you." Zhao Juqian remained unhurried, producing 2 pitch-black iron pellets, shooting them backward without a glance. At such a close distance, there was no time to evade. The scarred man felt no fear. A Transcendence Realm expert would not be intimidated by such trivial projectiles. Clenching his fists, a dark red glow enveloped his hands as he prepared to counter. Ha! Bang! Bang! A figure plummeted from the sky, followed by a wretched cry. My hand! The scarred man lay on the ground, tears in his eyes, his forearms completely severed, with jagged wounds exposing veins and bones, blood gushing forth. Damn it! Injured by a mere boy at the 7th level of the Divine Sea Realm. You lot, attack together. This lad is not simple, the elder commanded, then dashed out of the city alone. The individual who had escaped clearly held a noble status. He must not survive. The prince was already at his wit's end, barely holding on with the aid of medicinal pills and severely wounded. Given this situation, he could not flee swiftly. The elder, bolstered by the formation, had not expended much of his spiritual power, though his soul power had been significantly drained. Nevertheless, slaying the prince should be well within his capabilities. At that moment, Zhao Juqian had already taken advantage of the chaos caused by the explosion to leave the scene. Far away from the city gate. Recalling the geographical layout of this northern city, which was surrounded by towering walls with only 2 gates to the north and south, he realized that with the northern gate compromised, his only option was to escape through the southern gate, heading toward the imperial capital. Shortly thereafter, Zhao Juqian arrived home, finding the courtyard still tranquil, situated in a remote area, and with the flower-adorned walls serving as a deterrent. Even if thieves were to enter, they would likely meet their demise. Father, mother, Zhao Juqian called out. The door creaked open, revealing his parents with their hair now graying and faces lined with worry. Clearly, they had sensed the dangers unfolding outside. Juqian, has something happened in the city? Observing the anxious expressions of his parents, Zhao Juqian sighed. Father, mother, the city is no longer safe. I have come to help you escape. Zhejiaqian harbored a fervent desire to transport his parents into the Genesis space. However, drawing from his past life as a divine emperor, he understood the peril of such an act. Theo exposed 2 ordinary individuals, devoid of any cultivation, to the intricate causality of the Genesis space could only lead to dire consequences. Causality, a concept that instilled in him a profound sense of reverence, was something he could barely grasp. The weight of the causality that accompanied the Genesis space was too immense. Thus, he could only take the risk of escorting the 2 away from it. The escape outside remained within his control. Shall we not gather our belongings? He asked, and no need for that. His parents, ever diligent and frugal, could not afford the luxury of time. With a clang, he unsheathed his long blade and, taking his parents by the hand, navigated through the narrow alley towards the southern city gate. Chapter 20. The power of blood and soul. As time elapsed, the anguished cries and wails from around them grew ever closer. At that moment, Zhejiaqian could hear the heartbeat of his parents behind him, thumping heavily like stones battering a door. His father, merely a hunter accustomed to taking down a few hares, had never laid eyes on human blood, while his mother had seldom ventured beyond the city gates since birth. Trembling, they followed closely behind him, fearful that their footsteps might attract the enemy's pursuit. Suddenly, with a thunderous crash, a wall ahead was obliterated by an immense force, shattering the stone walls on either side of the alley. Zhejiaqian glanced over and beheld a middle-aged man in lavish attire sprawled on the ground like a puddle of mud, breathless and lifeless. "Ha ha! I truly wish I could play a little longer, but alas, I have no time to indulge you." A shrill, mocking laughter echoed in the air. Following the sound, he spotted a gaunt figure clad in black standing atop the ruined wall. With bloodshot eyes bulging from a face riddled with wrinkles, Zayajiakian, "What should we do?" "We must flee that way," his father quavered behind him. "Flee? Humph! I shall escort you out." The emaciated figure in black had already set its sights on them. Zayajiakian discerned that the adversary was at the 6th level of the Divine Sea realm, yet he felt little trepidation. With a cold snort, he propelled himself forward, sword in hand. Without hesitation, Zayajiakian leaped into action, his body becoming a fleeting shadow as he soared forth like a spirit bird. His long blade slashed downwards, aiming to sever the black-clad figure at the waist, before he could sheath his sword. An uncanny spectacle unfolded. The corpse lying on the ground did not deflate immediately. Instead, it began to twitch violently, releasing a plume of black mist that was promptly drawn into the crystal sphere he held. In a mere breath, the black vapor was completely absorbed, and the body visibly withered away, as the black mist was consumed. The corpse ceased its convulsions, and Zayajiakian observed a faint crimson essence enter the crystal sphere at his side. "What? It can autonomously absorb souls and blood essence. What a fearsome entity!" Zayajiakian marveled in astonishment. He recalled the enormous blood-red crystal from the formation's core, and despite his vast knowledge, he recognized such a thing as exceedingly rare. Curiosity piqued, he pocketed the crystal, cautioning the deity within not to utilize the blood and soul power contained therein, before promptly departing from this perilous place. His parents were already left in a state of shock. Awed by their son's prowess, yet Zayajiakian paid them no mind, seizing their hands and fleeing. At that moment, a more terrifying thought struck him. The black-clad figures were undoubtedly backed by a far more powerful organization. These individuals had likely employed such methods against the demon beasts, for the blood essence of these creatures far surpassed that of ordinary humans, notwithstanding their slightly inferior soul power. The black-clad figures had no reason to refuse such bountiful prey. The consequences of this action would undoubtedly exact a grave toll on the entire region's humanity. 3 days prior, in a distant land far to the north, within an icy royal palace, a colossal ice-field snow wolf king stood majestically. Its 10-meter frame gleaming white, its sky-blue eyes radiating an aura of inviolability. It listened intently to the reports of 3 gray wolves below, beside which lay 3 corpses. Suddenly, it spoke with human-like clarity. "Damn those humans! To employ such vile methods against my kin in the beast realm. They know not that once the soul is imprisoned and dissipated, it shall never reincarnate." The Wolf King's icy blue gaze turned frigid, and the surrounding space grew heavy with cold. The other beasts in the grand hall gritted their teeth, itching to rip apart every human in sight. Polar bears, fiery seductresses, one-eyed fiends. You are to lead all capable warriors and obliterate every force in the northern region of Hangzhou. We have remained silent for far too long. It seems humanity has forgotten its rightful place. Upon hearing this, 2 towering figures strode into the center of the hall, followed by a crimson fox. Its diminutive frame ablaze like a flickering flame, yet none in the hall dared to overlook her presence. "Your orders shall be executed." The 3 beast kings were already formidable beings of the beast king tier. Capable of human speech, their strength formidable as they commanded legions of beasts, causing humanity to retreat wherever they roamed. Not wasting a moment, the 3 beast kings returned to gather their subordinates. Half an hour later, dark clouds gathered ominously in the sky, swirling towards the south. The winds and snow intensified, as elusive beasts congregated, treading upon the snow. Outside the northern city, the prince of the Qin kingdom, having just fled the city, noticed the advancing dark mass. Not only that, but within the obscured snowstorm, pairs of blue eyes began to draw nearer with alarming speed, gradually encircling the entire city. What is this? A wave of inexplicable dread surged within him. And even in the frigid north, cold sweat began to bead on his palms. "Ha ha, little brat, there's nowhere for you to run." An elder from the blood demon sect lunged at the prince like a hawk ablaze with blood fire. The terrifying energy waves causing discomfort throughout his body. Gritting his teeth, The prince shot a fierce glare at the elder eye. In the blink of an eye, a talisman appeared in his hand. Chanting softly, he traced the talisman through the air, conjuring a far more fearsome tempest of flames. Fire Spirit Talisman. The elder sensed an intense heat approaching, leaving him no time to react. The searing pain was fleeting. As the elder was reduced to a pile of ash, damn it. Wasted a 4th-tier Fire Spirit Talisman. The prince cursed, hastily making his way back into the city. In the distance, the blue eyes began to reveal their true forms. In a moment of desperation, he opted for escape through the northern gate. Continuing to break through was no longer feasible. He could only return to the city and head south towards the imperial capital. As the tide of beasts drew near, the oppressive black clouds loomed lower in the sky, causing the prince to shiver involuntarily. Just then, a flying vessel emerged, positioning itself defiantly against the encroaching dark clouds, exuding an aura of unwavering strength. Below, the tide of beasts gradually came to a halt amidst the swirling snow. The vessel emitted a cold snort. Do you truly wish to engage in a life-and-death battle with our Shenyang sect? In response, a path parted within the tide of beasts, and a 10-meter-tall white bear strode forth, each step resonating with a thunderous crash against the ground. That is certainly not my intention. I merely wish to extinguish your Shenyang sect.